Hello everyone. Welcome back. It is time for MRL racing action. We are here back on a Saturday for the third time this season. It is, of course, time for round 3 of the Endurance Series. And joining me for this experience around Vietnam, well, Unicorn, how you doing?
Yeah, Striff, not too bad. I'm looking forward to this one. A track we've never been to for endurance, and I think it's going to be interesting to say the least. I think there's a lot of expectations as to how a Vietnam endurance race is going to go, but I think it's going to be completely different to what any of us think it's going to be. So I'm very interested to see how this one pans out. It's a long race. Mikhail's just informed me it's the second longest race you can have in this game behind Singapore. So we'll see how it goes.
Going to be a very intense race, of course. This is a circuit that we have visited already this season for MRL racing with, of course, the 5 grids. Here's 3, 2, 1 Americas and APAC. Now, of course, we're here with the Endurance Series. We wish we could be racing Portimao. We can't. It's not in the game, unfortunately, but we'll be seeing it in 2021 potentially. But we have decided, of course, Vietnam, just as we did for the previous race in China, we used some of the races we haven't seen 100% campaigns around to fill in, basically, of course. So here we are. This is going to be a very intense campaign. Looking at the grid, I can already see there is a lot of seriously quick drivers on the grid. And we'll just have to see how they all fare around this very, very tight circuit. The Hanoi Street Circuit, of course, you have that very long Sector 2, and it's going to be a long race, as you said, second longest potential race of the season. That's before any kind of safety cars. And we do have a good idea of what is coming for the weather. Have it on good information that we're going to be seeing some both dry and wet running in this evening's campaign around Hanoi. And I'm very excited for that. I mean, these endurance races, when they have had, of course, the wet weather come through, have been so wild to watch. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, this one is a test of endurance because it's a difficult track to get, around 50% of. So to have a full 100% race, to make it around full damage, in the new series of endurance that we got running, we used to do it reduced here, full, and 100% around here. It's a real test for the drivers. We are ready to go, so if the drivers are in the lobby, do get readied up because we are ready to get going. But while we get those drivers readied up, it's just an interesting one, Striff. We've not been here before. We have no idea really how this one's going to pan out. Like I said, I think people have their expectations coming to this. Obviously, we know what the weather's going to be, so we don't have that sort of dice roll, as it were. We know it's going to be, dry to wet race, light rain qualifying kind of thing. There we go. We've got the session countdown timer on its way. Well, we'll see. I'm just very interested to see how this one goes. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's going to be a very interesting and dynamic race. Of course, we have the weather that will be playing a role, but tire strategies here, nobody really knows the most optimal way around here in a 100% campaign. So we're going to see, of course, what these drivers get up to for tires as we jump now into an 18-minute short qualifying ahead of this 100% campaign. And you can just see in the images on screen, it is quite the circuit, and it has such a long straight in Sector 2. A lot of that overtaking coming into Turn 10 we've seen earlier this season. There's some rain right there. All right, so light rain, it would appear, in qualifying for this. And that is always unique to see because once you get into that wet condition qualifying, it really can play out differently with the grid than a dry qualifying. You never know who has strength and who has weakness in the wet.
Yeah, and I think as well is that you've got that setup choice as well you got to make, because I think most people will go for the wet weather setup, or at least a bit more balanced in terms of how it, 60-40 in terms of performance in the rain versus the dry, because we do have that dry start to the race, so they need to. It's raining in qualifying. We know it's going to rain in the race, so it seems to me that you would take a wet start, but that again can impact your performance at the start of the race. Even here, where it's only light rain, that track doesn't look particularly, where it is a little bit slippery.
B-Man in the Williams today. He will be first out of the pit lane. Take us through the grid. We have Yasko, B-Man, Azir, Remco Van Houten, Akrade, Dimitri, Sindako. We have Neon, Dark. We have Scott Barreros on the grid today, as well as Fraser, Ziffy, Rutanius, Dason, Mikau, Driver, four-door sedan. JA Games today, driving as Gene Kelly in a Ferrari. And then we have the Red Bull of Coffee Sipper for this campaign. 16 minutes counting down. We have a little bit of desync as far as the timing tower goes, as I believe, Unicorn, you're hosting this afternoon / evening, wherever you may be. Or early morning. Of course, this is a global affair. We have some Australians in the mix.
Yeah, people from all over the world in this race, and like you said, there's a little bit of desync on that timing tower in terms of how long is left in the qualifying session, but it should be, a fairly easy 2 runs. You might be able to squeeze in a third. It's a long lap, especially with the wet weather conditions as well. It's always going to be 18 minutes long, so no boundaries there. B-Man, he let Rutanius through, just coming out of turn 9 at the top end of that really long straight. So Rutanius, it looks like he'll be leading us for this first flying lap here around Vietnam, the Hanoi Street Circuit that is wet right now, but I think we're going to see it damper in the race as Rutanius, he comes out of the final corner and he's going to start that first flying lap of the session down towards turn 1, a fairly complex couple of corners, very wide, just missing the apex, sliding all over, using a lot of the curb on the inside of turn 2 now, through this long right-hander into 3, and then 4 on the left here, instantly popping to the right for 5. Want to get as much speed out of here because it's a fairly long run down towards turn 6 in what would be a DRS zone, but not to be here in the wet weather conditions. Into turn 6, aggressive braking zone using all of the curb on both 6 and 7. Inside, you got to switch it right to left, and then on this long left-hander into 8. Now through 9, Dimitri, very slow on the exit, just leaves enough room for Rutanius to squeeze through between him and the wall. Just a nice space left there. Rutanius now through the fast right-hander of turn 10 that barely even exists, but you can just about see it there, the right-hand bend, as he comes down into turn 11. The best overtaking spot by far on this track, this hairpin turn that comes out into turn 12, the slight left-hander on the exit, which makes it a little bit more interesting and a little bit trickier than, say, like the China hairpin at the end of that huge straight. Now through 13, again, another pretty interesting corner to get an overtake into, but you got to make sure you got it done before this very tight final sector through 14, 15, 16, 17, and now 18 for Rutanius. I'm swinging it through this.
A few overtakes around that corner that you mentioned through this season.
It's an interesting place to overtake because it's risky. If you don't get it done quickly enough, as a 148.4 is our opening time. But if you don't get, turn 13 moves done quickly, it can cause a problem for both drivers. And even the move itself, there's the wall coming into that third sector is so tight to the track, so it makes overtaking very difficult. But Dark, B-Man, they both crossed the line, both slower than Rutanius right now. Sindako, Rutanius' teammate for the evening, a 146.3. What a lap time coming out of him. Dayton on 147.5. The lap time starting to improve here in Vietnam. And Dayton is someone who loves this track, and
that is true.
He was a firm favorite coming into this race earlier on in the season.
He's one of the only people I know that sings the praises of the Hanoi Street Circuit. in all reality. I bring it up every time we visit this circuit, anytime it's suggested that it's a bad track. He is there to defend its honor, and here he is today in second position so far on this timing tower. Dason in the Alpha Tauri. Well, a 47.587. Can't for the life of me remember how that race went for him, though.
It did not end well. I remember that. He had a couple of incidents throughout it, so it's just, you know, it was a bad run of luck. He came into that one with a lot of high hopes. Yasko, P4, a 148.3. Just getting news of the 20th driver, I think, which is what you love to see.
Gap right now, not super representative of a tight grid considering these conditions. Everybody coming to grips with the circuit. We've had 15 drivers now set times. Who was the latest? That was Fraser, if I'm not mistaken. No, JA came through. Remco van Putten, the Dutchman now. He's gone 8th quickest. Pole position, a 45.991. Dason within a second range. Everyone else, however, not quite close enough to make that 1 second mark. And well, we've seen much tighter qualifyings than this throughout MRL, and of course these endurance series races, these conditions playing up. And Vietnam, not a super favorite, as we've mentioned. Not a lot of practice goes into these races, so I imagine everyone coming in getting to grips with the circuit, not only for the first time but in these wet conditions. Unicorn.
Yeah, and it's been a while as well since we've been here, and it's been a while as well since we've been at these close street circuits as well. You sort of get past them in a fairly early stage of the calendar, with an exception of Singapore. It's a bit later, a bit more open than this though, I'd say. So everyone's sort of got this out of their system earlier on in the season. Again, not a lot of people's favorite track, so I don't think there would have been a lot of practice, like you said, going into this one. And with the changeable conditions, all of that's going to make for a very interesting race, and for the drivers, a very difficult race. This one, it really is going to stand up to the name MRL Endurance Series, because with the wet weather, the long lap time around here, the difficult track, it's going to be tough for these guys to put in good lap after good lap. Mikal, he improves on his lap time fairly significantly. He went for 2 laps there, 147.1 coming out of him, just behind Fraser. Neon, he's coming into the final corner. I think we just saw Maxime B join there, a late reserve to the race, and there goes Neon P6, instantly bumped down by Remco van Putten behind him in the Red Bull. The APAC division coming in here to prove a point. Mikal and Remco, they're 4th and 5th right now. Yeah, big shout out to Maxime B for joining late to fill in that 20th grid slot.
Tanius on an outlap right now. I was taking a look at Dimitri in the Mercedes. He's on a flyer coming through Sector 3, and Dimitri is a driver you and I have seen on and off through MRL. If I'm not mistaken, he drove through Club Division for a few race starts.
He's one of those names that, like you say, you see here and there, and he's just sort of just a good, consistent driver from what I remember as he slides through the last corner nice and dramatically. P5 for his troubles at 147.573, just 4 thousandths ahead of Akraid there. So we'll see how he sort of goes in this race, but 5th place, very nice from Dimitri.
Take a look at Retanius as he's just rounding himself to start another lap here. He was the first driver to get a lap on the board. The Dutch driver, a 48.454. We'll see what he's able to do. A little bit of a slide through in turn 1 here. I think he dropped the lap.
No, it doesn't look like he's too keen on it. It's these conditions there. They aren't nice for the drivers. We've already had B-Man coming across in chat saying that they're not great to drive, and I think that's probably because, depending on what setup you're running, again, it's at this stage where it's not heavy rain. It's definitely intermediate tire conditions, but is it the setup that, you know, working for him? If you've got a full wet setup onto take control in that last portion of the race. If you've got a dry setup to try and take advantage of the start of the race, I don't think anyone's going to have a setup that feels that comfortable right now around this track. So maybe there's, you know, the odd one or two, but most people I think will be struggling right now in these conditions. Although Dimitri, he's up another 2/10 on his lap time, so we'll see what he can do. He's quite comfortable right now in that Mercedes as he comes through this final section.
Remco Van Putten also improved once again, and he has chained 4 laps on those intermediate compound tires. I haven't checked in yet to see if he's on another run presently or if he'll head into the pit lane, maybe get another set and go for some improvements. And there goes Dimitri. 4/10 near the improvement for him, and that's into 4th position for the Merc.
Yeah, there's no reason not to really do, you know, these big multiple runs. It's a long track, so coming, you know, doing an out lap, doing a single push lap, in lap, wastes a lot of time, whereas you could just chain together these 4 laps, come in one set of tires at the end, take advantage of the track at the end when there's a little bit more of a dry line kind of thing. So I don't blame him at all for what he's doing. I think it's a perfectly reasonable strategy when we know that the starting of the race is going to be dry. You wouldn't use these tires anyway at the start of the race. So more power to him to take him off. And you can see the dry line forming as well.
Maxim B right now on his first out lap. I know the timing tower is indicating it is maybe an active lap, but I can guarantee you it is just a bit of a desync on the timing tower, as he is a late joiner now. We'll hope to see whatever time he gets onto this board stand, but we have known there to be a bug where if you do join a session late in qualifying, it can bump you to the rear end of the grid, which is, yes, very unfortunate. But Maxim, he's been around quite some time and he knows that is possible. But regardless, we'll try to see what time he's able to get, as he's in Antonio Giovinazzi's car today in the Alfa Romeo. And, well, Maxim, a McLaren driver full-time in the MRL, but no stranger to the Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, and you know, I think even like you said, he probably knows that there's a potential there. As Dimitri goes 3rd fast, he's found more time in that car, 3/10 again. So I think these chained laps actually working out. His tires not updating on the timing tower for some reason or another. I think there's been an issue. Is that just everyone slowing down? Well, it looks like it might have been Sindaki on an invalidated lap. But yeah, Maxime, I think, you know, a late joiner here, maybe didn't realize that he was going to be racing. Just wants to use qualifying as a little bit of an extra practice, a little bit of a warm-up before we get into a very long race. Doesn't want to go in completely cold. We'll see what sort of lap time he can produce it anyway, just for a gauge of pace, even if he does get put to the rear of that grid.
Everybody on this timing tower with a time except Maxim right now, and of course that is because he did join late. 4 minutes remaining in the session, and it is a long lap time around here, and most especially in the wet conditions, and we're going to see that lap time adjust over the course of this upcoming race. Yellow flag sparking up through sector 2. Not too much doing though. Mercedes, not sure if there was a tow, but I did see an exchange as there is an Alpha Tauri moving through there. I think that is Mikau. We'll take a look at Maxim as he comes into the hairpin. You can see that yellow light flashing on the boards, and not clear as to why. It might be Dimitri out of fuel here. He's going quite slow.
Yeah, there's just a slow moving Mercedes there, and like you said, I don't know if there was a tow, but it's interesting even in these conditions that people are trying to strike up some level of teamwork here. We'll see if Yasko can put that to good use if he did have a tow. Currently sitting 12th place. He'll be crossing the line in just a moment. We'll see what sort of lap time he can conjure up. There he goes, jumps up into 8th place at 147.6. Mick out to the line. Doesn't improve, 1.5 tenths slower than his 147.1 best.
Maxim B moves into 13th position on this grid of 48.818 was his first run. Very nice time from him for the first run of the session. Things are starting to tighten up at the top end right now as Sindako, Dason, Dimitri are within 1 second range in these wet conditions, and I have to say everybody behind them is not too far off. Things pretty tight all the way down this grid DRS, of course, can play such a role here around Hanoi. There are 3 different straights and where it plays a role, and we'll just have to see how it comes through in this race. 2 minutes remaining in this qualifying, give or take a minute or so. Of course, massive shout out and big thanks to Inside Racing League. Thank you so much for the raid. We greatly appreciate that, and welcome to Vietnam. We are here for a 100% distance endeavor. My name is Striffy, I'm here from Canada, and joining me from the UK is Unicorn. And I'll just take a quick second to mention our fantastic partners, Next Level Racing. You can check them out via, of course, the link in the chat, or via the panels down below for some amazing sim racing rigs, motions, sims, as well as wheel stands.
Well, welcome to all the raiders who are about to see, the last few laps in qualifying ahead of this 100% Vietnamese Grand Prix, and I think it is that sort of calm before the storm. We've got a lot of people, I think, who have already done 1 lap striff, who are looking to stack up a lap or 2, because I think that seems to be what's working out the best for these guys. Get a little bit of heat in those tires, get a lap or so in on them, and then really push on that, well, 3rd lap if you include the out lap. So we'll see what they've got. Remco Van Putten, he's flying, but I think he's dropped the lap, and he is going to, stack it. We saw him stack 4 laps together on his last set of intermediate tests. We'll see if he does anything similar. Sindako, current pole sitter, he's up on his previous best time, or he's just set a faster lap time. So he's coming through sector 1 now in that Racing Point, swinging very wide though through turn 3. That's still valid.
He's a second up on Dayson. Dayson on that out lap right now. Dimitri's had a retirement in the pit lane, so he's done for the session. And he's just been pushed back. Acraid in the Renault. Oh, there's a thanks from Renault. A 46.461 into second position provisionally now as the clock ticks down.
Yeah, just watching on with Sindako. He's in sector 2 now. He's still pushing in that Racing Point. He's got the fuel warning light on now though, so I think this will be his last lap time regardless, if he's got enough fuel to even make it to the line. And it looks like he doesn't. He looks like he might have dropped it here as he comes out of the hairpin, 11 and 12. And he's about to cross the timing line, and he is down. So yeah, I can't imagine he's going to be rounding that one out. Dayson's down as well on his time. Mikau in the AlphaTauri, a big slide through the final quarter, but he also up at his time. He beats Neon's time.
I don't think that's going to stand. I just checked in with Neon. Here we come out of the final corner. What's he going to do here? It's P4. 2.5 tenths improvement. That pushes Mikau and Dimitri back. Sindako has caught the checkered flag as well. Acraid does not seem to be on an improving time. Dayson, however, very well could be by the end of this. We'll see what he's able to pick up. Oh, he's just dropped it. So that is not going to stand for him. He will not be improving. Fraser now coming through the final sector.
Yeah, Dayson wasn't up on his time. It was a fairly consistent looking lap. He might have time to go again though. We've got to remember that the timing is a little bit decent for us. I don't know if it's going to be a minute and a half out, but considering Dayson is still pushing to the end here to cross that line as fast as he can, it was actually faster, so maybe just proving to himself that he could go quicker.
Never a bad thing to know what you have in hand. And here goes Siffy now to the line. This will be his last run as he catches the checkered flag. What's he going to do? He improves by 1 position into 13th, and it was a 10th and a half of an improvement for him. Britannius, he is coming through now the final sector, the final turn. What is he able to do as he comes out? He's got a big bash with the wall, and he is just going to slow things down before he gets to that finish line. And that will be 10th for the Dutchman here in Hanoi. Well, there we have it, Unicorn. Sindako, the Racing Point today on pole position. A 145.682 from the Italian. Acraid, the Brazilian in the Renault, of 46.461, just shy of 8/10 off of Sindako on this front row. Of course, the wet qualifying definitely playing a role in these times. And we have Dason, the British driver in the AlphaTauri today, a 0.947 gap to the pole sitter. It was a 46.629. Of course, we'll go down through the rest of this grid on the formation lap and see how the rest of these drivers stack up outside of the, well, actually, it's a free choice of tire, so we'll have to see what everybody chooses, Unicorn.
Yeah, it's an important decision because we're starting on the dries, but we know that the wet weather rain is coming. It's going to be light, then it's going to be heavy. So you got to estimate. It's nice and sunny right now here in Vietnam, but that cloud coverage is going to push in. It's going to force everyone off of the slicks. So it really is a gamble. I can see a lot of softs right now, but I think we have to wait until this loading is all done and dusted to get the accurate representation of what is going to be the starting compound, because people will be choosing their tires now. They'll be finalizing their setups. We've got Dark back into the lobby, which is good to see. But we'll have a look at the tires once we're on that formation lap. I would be surprised if we saw a lot of softs because of how the weather is going to plan out. Apparently, the recommended strategy is 4 stops. We might see more than that, depending on how the rain comes in and it impacts it. We might see less than that. So it's a long race. It's the second longest race you can host in this game. And there we are. We are on the grid with Sindako on pole. Let's have a look and see what sort of tires we've got. And there aren't a lot of softs. There's more than I was necessarily expecting. 7 drivers have opted for that soft compound tire. Only 2 have opted for the hards in Azir and Yasko. Everyone else on this medium compound of tire. There's already been an issue with, I think, maybe someone not being able to start off the line. A little bunch up there on the starting grid, but there we are. We've got Sindako on pole, choosing the medium compound of tires, and Acraid behind him. Soft compounds. The only driver in the top 10, well, in the top 9, Rotanius in 10th is on the softs as well. And we have Dason, Remco, Neon, Dimitri, Mikau, Fraser, all from 3rd to 8th, all on the mediums. Then Azir in 9th on the hards. Rutanius rounds out the top 10 on softs. Yasko on hards in 11th. Stiffy in 12th on the mediums. Then Dark and B-Man on softs. James, or JA Games, I should say, 15th in the mediums. Then Coffee Sipper on the softs. Scotty on mediums in 17th. Driver on the softs in 18th. Voda Sedan on the mediums in 19th. And Maxime B, he did get relegated to the back here, but he's chosen to go for soft compound tires to try and make some positions through this race, through this grid.
Well, this is going to be a very, very interesting race given the amount of softs outside of this top 10 starting right now. We're going to see how these colder tires play off for 15, 17, and 19 position on the grid right now for, of course, James going by Gene today, Scott and four-door sedan, all on the mediums, cold tires because of that issue at the beginning of this formation. Couple hards on the grid and Azir and Yasko. That's going to play interesting. We'll have to see how these opening laps go. We've seen a variety of different styles of opening lap. Through MRL, we had 5 races around Hanoi, and I have to say most of them went quite clean, but it was the Tier 1 division, one of the tightest divisions, that had one of the most difficult races. And considering how tight this grid really is, and the fact that there is pace trapped all throughout this grid, well, makes me nervous. Makes me nervous. And of course, Unicorn, please do us the honors of kicking things off here around Hanoi.
Well, so if we're just getting those last 2 drivers onto the back of this grid, there will be a little bit of desync, but we do have 5 red lights on here in Hanoi. There we go. The revs are starting to go now for the drivers there, seeing the time in sequence. And there we go. We are away. Mikau jumps to start. Drive-through penalty for the Australian right on the launch of things. Rutanius, he's already up 2 places as they run down towards turn 1. Sindaku leads dominantly ahead, but it's Remco and Dason side by side through turns 2 and 3 right now. The Red Bull on the outside of the sister car, the AlphaTauri, on the inside. Dace is looking to hold his position. It's the track he loves, but it's cost him a position on the start here. Neon behind them, just watching on behind them. Rutanius is now up 3, and he's looking to make it 4. Dimitri defending the inside into the run. Down into turn 6. He holds it late on the brakes. A little bit of lockup for the Mercedes, but he holds on to the position.
There's been a huge issue. A massive issue. There's been a car around, and I'm not entirely sure who it is. But there's a massive amount of damage here. There is a virtual safety car deployed, and there's a good chunk of debris out here on circuit. And that has really shaken up this grid already. A variety of drivers going to have damage here, and this is just the first of what could potentially be many safety car deployments in this campaign. This is lap 1 out of 55, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone coming to grips with this dry running right now. We have rain coming. Buckle up.
Well, it was Yasko there who was spun round, and what has happened to Driver there? He's just gone straight on. I don't know if he's had some sort of mechanical problem, you know, with a controller or wheel where his brakes just haven't worked, but he just straight lined the hairpin. He's got no damage. He's got away with it, but very unfortunate. And now he sits, you know, a long way behind Dark, Siffy, and they exchange positions. But Williams with a huge chunk of damage, and you can see now people flying into the pit lane.
A couple penalties being picked up as well. Some drivers struggling to get things slowed down, and now Mikau, he's coming into the pit lane, ladies and gentlemen, but he is not having that pit crew come out for him. He is. So he has had to come in, and not only that, but he has a drive-through penalty as well. So this is not good. A yellow flag has also been sparked as a result. I think there was a retirement from driver in the pit lane here. So now that's unfortunate. Mikau now for a fresh set of softs. He's going to have to serve a drive-through penalty following this lap. And now he is really going to need a safety car in order to get himself back into formation with this grid. But considering how things have began here, Unicorn, well, I don't know. We might just see one soon enough. Sedan, B-Man right now fighting for 12th position. Sedan through on the inside. Here goes Fraser looking for a line through. He's going to get it. Gene Kelly just ahead. There's an action between him and Dark right now. B-Man back on the Ferrari. We're going to jump far ahead now. Rutanius Dimitri.
Dimitri's off. Dimitri spun it on the outside of the hairpin. Just about rejoins ahead of Dark. B-Man is on the inside of four-door sedan, and Fraser takes them both. Fraser says thank you very much. He's down 4 places from where he started this race. But he's climbing back up now.
This has been quite the dynamic race start already, and we haven't even seen any major weather developments. Sindako capturing that fastest lap for the time, 1:39.955, as B-Man continues to look at the rear of four-door. Of course, the softs right now, he wants to make the best of them. Mikau, after coming into the pit lane, near 15 seconds behind, and you can see him fly into that pit lane, does not take a penalty, which is absolutely crucial. And we'll just have to see how long it takes him to get out here and where the drivers behind him will fall. Here goes Dark now on a run, looking at Dimitri with a switch to the now outside as we come into the right-hander. And that was a neat move there from the Haas.
Well, there goes B-Man looking at four-door sedan. The softs, they've been working out for Rutanius. They're working out now for B-Man to put it back to where he was at the start of this race. And he picks off the McLaren four-door sedan, who's up 5 on the medium. Sindako, he loses lead of things. Akre, those softs are paid off for him. He's the only guy in the top 9 to start on them. Now they're paying off Dimitri, Dark, they're exchanging. Well before that hairpin turn.
Neon Dason right now. And a little bit of a drag race coming out of the hairpin. Remco Van Putten in 3rd position. 2.1 seconds off of Sindako, causing a little bit of a hiccup potentially for these drivers. Dason was in 3rd when we started this race. Remco got him off the line as we went through the first sector, and of course you have to think about that softer there, Rutanius now. Well, Rutanius, where did he come from?
Well, he's been really pushing since the start of this
race. I
race.
didn't even see him. He took that McLaren so quickly. I was on board with Neon. He came up the inside just as I switched off, and he took the the McLaren for 5th position. What a move.
I think Neon's had an issue. Because he was right on the rear of Dyson not too long ago. Azir now getting overtaken by Coffee Sip around the outside. The soft tires strip are really dominant on this track right now. And obviously they will switch off at some point compared to the other tires, but it's a 100% race. So they last longer. Dark, he's got Dimitri all over the rear from the Mercedes. ERS, or DRS, no ERS actually being deployed. Doesn't need it as he storms down into turn 6. But yeah, the soft tires right now really working out. As Maxime B puts in some good work at 139.2. Fastest lap of the race for the Canadian driver.
As things start to settle, there's pockets of action all over this grid right now. As we come down the straight, I'm looking at Dark. He gets Dimitri, Dason, Remco. They're exchanging.
Oh, Rutenius might get him here. He does. What a switchback for Rutenius. Dason tried to go around the outside of Remco. Didn't work out for him. Lost a lot of time. And Rutenius stuck up the inside. Coffee Sipper takes Azir now. Again, no soft tires. Just really helping him now defend the place which he took from the Alfa Romeo. And speaking of Alfa Romeos, Maxime B up into 17th place. Didn't have the best start to this race, but he is up from where he started it. So I'll be happy. But now that gives Siffy the DRS as they run down towards this hairpin. We're going to be speaking about it a lot, but Siffy backs out a little bit early to try and just give Maxime the space, and he does. Nice clean driving from the pair of them.
Maxime a bit of a slide out on the exit. That could have gone badly for him had that gone any further around. Rutenius just hunting down Remco Van Putten now. It's a battle between countrymen, of course, in different teams. We're used to seeing them in these cars. Remco in the Red Bull, Rutenius in the Racing Point, a battle between the two Dutchmen. And here we go. Remco a little bit later on the brakes there. Rutenius just looking to maybe spook him a bit, Unicorn.
I don't think you can spook Remco Van Putten. He is one of these drivers that you just do not. That doesn't work. That does not work on Remco Van Putten. My mind always wondered. I think it was a Mexican Grand Prix where we saw him. It might have been the Mexican endurance race. To be honest, we got a yellow flag. We got a Mercedes off. It's Dimitri in the wall. He's just about off the racing line.
Ooh, that's a VSC deployed. That full wing, if I'm not mistaken, is sitting there on the track, and it is.
Yeah, he's missing the entire thing.
That is not good for him at all, and that is our second now VSC of this campaign. We're on lap 5. Buckle up. It's the second time I've said it. Buckle up, because this is going to be quite the race. Things so tight in this grid already. You look at the difference in colors and tires. Of course, we have the different compounds listed on the timing tower. The position changes that we've seen in this race already have been massive. 5-second penalties. We got drive-throughs. We got everything coming through, being thrown around now. Coffee Sipper going to be kicking himself after that. Rutenius the same. Wow. And that is just going to plant them all throughout this grid. And what luck. What luck. And it'll be a real, a jolt for them to see those drive-throughs. But of course, we're on lap 5. Up 6, excuse me. Out of 55. I saw it in the chat. Someone mentioned Mikau. Still tons of time in this race for him to catch up. Mikau's such a strong driver. We've seen it time and time again. He's shown it in the APAC all season long. Here he goes now in Green Flag Racing with a move on Scott, and they're both going to get a couple positions due to the pit stops. And he really isn't that far off of Neon. Neon, of course, with that penalty that he took on the way into the pit lane. 5 seconds. We take a look at the penalties right now. You can see Rutenius, Coffee Sipper, both with drive-throughs. Neon and Sippy both took 5 seconds. Rutenius now. Remco in the hairpin. A little bit of an exchange here. And I do believe Sindako and Akraid also exchanged for lead once again in this race. And maybe the soft starting to betray the Renault driver. We'll just have to see. DRS very strong down into turn 10, Unicorn.
It seems early for the softs to be dying out, but to see two soft drivers there getting picked off in the same corner as, I think Dimitri might have just had a similar problem. He has. Well, he's just done the same thing.
The safety car is out. We're on with Dimitri. Had he not just done this the previous lap, that same corner lost him his front wing. He came in, he changed the wing, it puts him to the back of the bus. Now, he's at the back of the bus, and he has gone into the wall. He's gone into the wall, and he is out of this race. Why? I mean, it's a prime opportunity for him to get back into contention. I don't understand that.
It's a difficult traction zone, and
Freeware in the chat all over that.
well, now the safety car and Rutanius pitted just before it came out, so this has worked out beautifully for the Dutchman. We were just talking about how those tires might be dying off a little bit. He's in P6. He was flying around P3, P4. He's only lost a couple of places to the pit stop. So for him, this has worked out beautifully.
This is going to be really hard for a couple drivers here. And let me explain to you why. We take a look at Rutanius and Coffee Sipper with these drive-through penalties. And this is what they need to do, and I really hope they're listening. They need to wait for the green flag racing before going into this pit lane. I don't think they're going to be allowed to have a lap going around after the safety car comes in. I think if they cross that line when the safety car restart happens, they're going to get DSQ'd, because if I'm not mistaken, they went over the line with that before the SC came out. I could be wrong. We'll have to see how it plays out, but if it was me, I'd be safe, and I would just wait until that safety car has come in and there's green flag racing and try to get that drive-through served. It's going to be hard, but we've had 2 VSCs, and now we have had a full safety car, and I'll tell you, Dimitri, in losing his wing the second time round, I'm not sure what to say about it, but it has sparked this safety car. I don't believe there's any foul play going on, bugs or anything like that to cause the safety cars. I do believe all the safety cars and VSCs we have seen to now are realistic. I don't think there's anything going on. What about you, Unicorn? I think they've been warranted.
Yeah, I think they've been valid. I think there's, no reason to worry, although unless you're... Who was that? Was it Dark? Okay, I think he's caught it, but I don't know if that was a visual glitch on my end, but he just had a massive spin through turn 2, but he's caught up to Coffee Sipper far too quickly for that to have been an actual issue for him, but someone to keep an eye on. But yeah, I think the safety car, I don't think it's necessarily warranted a full safety car for the incident we just saw, but well, at least the first portion of it, we had the safety car and then Dimitri crashed out, but he had that same incident in the same place.
Yeah.
Maybe he was just blocking the racing line a little bit too much, and that's what triggered the difference, because the first time he crashed, he lost his front wing, but his car was stopped way off of the racing line, so he was not impeding anyone. So maybe this time the debris was on the racing line, he was on the racing line, I don't know. But again, I don't think there's any foul play going on. I don't think the safety cars have been glitched in coming out, as it was a VSC and then a safety car. The safety car glitch I think people are referring to as that safety car rolling into safety car, safety car, safety car. So I think we're all good for now.
Very interesting to see all these position changes on lap 8 already. All but 3 drivers in this race have come in for a pit stop. Acraid, Remco, Azir, all sticking it out, and we've had multiple pit stops from a variety of drivers. Some of those stops, if I'm not mistaken, might even be considered drive-throughs. I can't recall if those are considered stops or not, but actually no, they aren't, because Mikal is definitely on fresh tires, and we saw him pit earlier. So Mikal on fresh mediums. He's going to catch up to this grid, and after having taken that drive-through penalty, he's back into striking position here. Despite being 16th, we know him to be a very fast driver. Not a lot of drivers here on this grid have had an opportunity to race him aside from Remco, considering they're both a part of the APAC division. Very much looking forward to see how Mikal moves through this grid. Of course, he's behind Fraser. We have Neon in 13th position. There's a lot of pace in the rear end of this grid that are going to have to make their way ahead to try and get themselves into the points-paying positions.
Yeah, there's a lot of work for a lot of drivers, but the grid's all bunched up again now. The thing, as long as you don't get lapped, there's always the opportunity for that safety car, the one we're seeing now, to catch back up onto that grid. You know, Mikal there, fresh tyres, 16th place. plenty of opportunity to carve his way through this field. He's got Fraser ahead of him. No, tier 1 driver, maybe a little bit of luck pace there. Neon 13th. There's a lot of pace still down this grid that we might see able to drag a few of these drivers up through the field. Tires, mostly a level playing field now. There's a lot of variation up in the top 10, but outside of that, it's mostly fresh mediums, fresh hards. So I think we're in for some exciting battling on this safety car restart, which should restart this lap. So lap 10 should be green flag racing. And like you said, a few drivers need to be careful of those drive-throughs. And Sultanius and Coffee Sip are the two countrymen. I do believe they're even racing in the same room right now. A little bit of a LAN party going on there. So hopefully one has worked it out and conveyed the message to the other.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Of course, massive shout out to everybody viewing the stream this evening, this afternoon, this morning, wherever you may be joining us. We greatly appreciate you being here. My name is Strifium. I am hailing here from Ontario, Canada. We have Mr. Unicorn from the UK. And we do have Race Control confirming now that the safety car is coming in this lap. Of course, massive shout out to our partners, Next Level Racing. You can check them out via the link in the chat. And of course, the panels down below on their website for some amazing sim racing rigs, motion sims, wheel stands, and stuff to take your racing to the next level, whether you're a beginner or an advanced racer. But here we go. Acraid leading us away on this restart now as the safety car lights have gone dark. And Acraid has decided to go wide. You can see now Acraid dropping through this field massively, and I haven't got a clue what has just gone down over at Renault. Massive shout out to Lucas Blakely. Welcome in, sir, and thank you so much for the raid. You are here to witness 100% Vietnam, and we have had 2 VSCs, a full safety car, and we're back racing. Rutanius with a jump off the line. No DSQ for him and Coffee Sipper, both having to serve drive-through penalties at the end of this lap.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with those two, but Jason up the inside. Siffy's losing positions. He's lost 2 now on this long right-hander through turns 2 to 3. Not a good start at all for the Williams, especially when you've got a little bit of a gap behind with how the safety car restart here is structured with those late corners before that start finish. Straight Mick out. He gets past Fraser for P14. Yavatari, he'll be happy to be climbing as the Williams and B-Man, a bit of a slide, manages to catch it. And then there's Acraid, who was leading on the safety car restart. He's all the way down. Maxime B, he's dropping too. He's dropped to Dyson and Neon.
Nickow's making a lot of moves right now. He's wanting to catch up with a lot of things. Gene Kelly drop into Scott Barreros here. Neon hunting down Dayson, Coffee Sipper, and Dark Exchange. Of course, Rutanius and Coffee Sipper going to have to serve drive-thrus. Look at this exchange here in the hairpin. Things quite tight. The Ferrari, the AlphaTauri, and the McLaren nearly going 3 wide now as we come into the right-hander here. Neon on the outside of Gene Kelly, aka JA Games. He's gone around. He's gone into the wall. There's big damage, and he is going to be staring the wrong way. He's going to drop to the rear of this grid. Acraid now, of course, quite further down the order. And here we go as Rutanius coming in to serve that drive-through penalty. Coffee Sipper on the heels of him. Mickow's been tapped. Fraser's gone into the rear of the Australian. Mickow recovers it, but there's an end plate that's come off. I believe Yasko's just taken that off in the Mercedes as he's taken the pair of them.
Yeah, I think he just thought, oh no, Yasko's still got it. He's still got his end plate. It's Mickow's. It's Mickow's front left that's come off there. Yasko really forced his way through the middle there. We've got a retirement. It's in the pit lane. So Acraid, maybe some sort of, controller wheel issue there, which I think we saw for driver as well. So the Renault squad plays with potential mechanical issues, I think, on both drivers, which is unfortunate.
We're a 5th through the race, ladies and gentlemen. What a campaign we've seen so far. Sindaco, Dark now. They're having an exchange down this very long straight. Sindaco, the Italian, in the racing point into 3rd position. Dark now. Does he have a potential move for his switchback in the hairpin? Does he look for that inside? Nothing doing just yet.
Nick out, despite the damage, finds his way back past Yasko for P11, and Fraser and B-Man behind them. They're exchanging. Neither one of these guys are damaged. Both on medium compounds. Fraser's slightly older, but he still finds a way around B-Man to hold on to P13. We've got Akrate's car causing a yellow flag in sectors 1 and 2. But nothing to worry about there that will cause a safety car VSC or anything of the sort.
Not at the moment, anyway. If it had been anyone moving through there at a rapid pace, we might have an issue, considering how tight this grid is right now. But DRS finally getting enabled after that safety car restart. The yellow flag has now disappeared. We're on with Dason, of course, a man who loves this circuit, within half a second of Scott. Scott on the older mediums right now. Dark just ahead of him, giving him an opportunity to maybe get a tow with the DRS. But you can see now Scott dropping off his teammate Dason, looking to eat him alive here. Look at the AlphaTauri's run. Nothing in it for Scott here. Dason makes quick work of him. Where's Neon? Not too close, but not too far either, and he'll be looking to inherit as well in a very quick moment. Well, he's going to inherit right now. Excuse me. Scott with a bit of an issue.
On these old tires. Tire life around here really not helping a lot of these drivers out. Sindarko, what a run he's got on Azir again. Old tires, slower tires as well, so there's really nothing that the Spaniard could do to hold off Sindarko as he comes up for P2, and he was leading this race. He's looking to retake that throne quickly. What's going on down into the hairpin between these three? Mikau and Fordor both take Siffy. He's dropped 2 places twice on the safety car restart. Still no damage for him. And Fraser's trying it on the inside of Yasko. No room for the Ferrari, though. And that might give B-Man the exit he needs to try and send it up the inside of turn 13. He's using ERS. He's got the speed. He's there.
Oh!
But he's got...
What a dive that was.
Spun himself around. Yeah, not too good from him. Dason, he's had a problem on a track he loves. It looks like Dark's had a disconnection or something. There's a problem. There it is. That car's caused a few issues there between Dason and Neon. Neon getting back past it, but for Dason, he's coming to the pits as a result.
No visible damage on Neon's car there. I'm not sure what happened with Dason, if he's getting a wing change. Yeah, he is. So he's had some wing damage there, a good portion as well. Not what you wanted to see after he was having a good performance fighting in that midfield. Dark, we'll hope to get him back in this session as he's had a disconnect. B-Man's had a retirement, and I believe that's in the pit lane as well. So he's decided to call it quits here, and we're down to 16 now drivers, one of them being AI controlled.
Scotty's just run into his teammate, who's in an AI car, and he's into the wall.
Not sure how that's happened.
Completely misjudged it.
Not sure how that's happened.
Well, he's lucky to still be in this one. And Dark's back in the session as well, so that car no longer going to be causing problems. Neon gets past Azir in the hairpin, but Azir looking for a switchback, and what a switchback it's been for him. Neon burning ERS, but he's into the single digits, so he's not got a lot to play with. And the Spaniard retakes third place, but Neon through 13. What a drive! It's a very narrow section of the track, a little bit of contact, but no contact with the wall.
That is
and
just
you got to
so
give credit
risky
to these drivers. What a bit of driving, Striff.
Yeah, I have to give them both credit for keeping it together in that section of circuit, but for Neon to kind of, I think, push back at Azir there through there, that's short-term thinking. I mean, this is a 55-lap race. Here we go now, coming down the pit straight, and he's going to have an easy move through back into third. We've had a yellow flag spark through sector 3. I think that is the Haas of Scott.
Yas goes into the wall coming out of the final corner. He's had a little bit of spin. He's still in this, but I think he's missing his entire front wing strip. It has not been the day to be a Mercedes front wing. That's the third one we've seen snap off, and he's got to drive the entire lap with it because he's missed the pit lane. I'm not quite sure what happened. There was a huge clump of 4 cars coming through that final section. Rutanius now on 4-door sedan. He was at the top end of that group, and he's looking for it at the inside. It might be a little bit late to go for the move at the inside. He's forced forward on it wide though, and with the softs, can he find anything around the outside? It's going to be risky because Fraser is going to have a look on the inside here as they come out of turn 8 into turn 9. Fraser doesn't find anything, avoids the wall, and we know he's had trouble through that section of track before.
Yeah.
But it's Ruritanius side by side with Fordor, still with DRS Sindaku. Remco, they've exchanged for leader things, but it's Ruritanius past Fordor Sedan. Fraser might just have the McLaren as well.
I think he's going to get this McLaren. Ooh, a bit late on the brakes for four-door there, or early for Fraser, whichever way you want to go. They're drag racing coming out of this hairpin right now, and Ruritanius is laughing as he escapes this. He doesn't want them to catch him up. He wants them to continue fighting here.
Well, there's a lot of hard-fought battling going on, and it's sort of letting a few people run away at the top end of things. Sindaku, he's leading, but Remco as well on this different strategy. He didn't come in under that safety car. He's still out. 14-lap-old mediums. There's been a problem. Yasko's out.
What? I was just looking at Yasko. He had no wing, and I don't want to know what happened there. I just don't want to know. Very unfortunate for the Mercedes. Both drivers now out. You can see the car pulled off to the side there. I didn't see any damage other than that front wing missing, so I'm not sure if it was on track or what has happened there, but we're down to 15 drivers now, and it's starting to look like we're going into Q2.
Yeah, that VSC coming out. No full safety car, which is quite questionable given that we had, you know, lesser VSC, full safety car for less, but Nick out, Dark exchanging on a safety car restart.
Here we go, four-door. Safety coming out of the hairpin. If he had a nice move there on the inside. Neon, Remco starting to get quite close in proximity here. Neon on tires, half the age. See how
We
that
still haven't seen any of that rain drift.
Yeah, I'm not sure where it is. We are going to be expecting rain.
There's not even a cloud in the sky. There's a few off in the distance, but nothing on track. It's still really sunny here. And we are only on lap 16 and 55, so there's still plenty of time for it to arrive. But my goodness, it is taking its time.
Pacing on the rear of four-door. Having another solid run. Pacing on those soft tires. DRS for both drivers, however, Dayson. Ooh, four-door. Almost into the rear of him. Siffy trying to hold off Dayson. I don't think this is going to work for him further up the grid, though. As Dayson is looking at, of course, Siffy. Dark and Mikau have had an exchange. Dark's gone deep into the hairpin, and I have to say, Ruritanius not too far behind them. He's going to gain some time there. Mikau with a good buffer now. Near 4 seconds the loss for Dark as a result there.
Yeah, it's good news for Mikau as well. You think how this race started for him. Look how it's going now. P6 on this medium compound tyre. There's a lot of drivers ahead that will be pitting in the near future. We'll see Mikau possibly in the top 3 in a few laps' time. Not saying he's going to finish there, but right now it's been a great recovery drive from that Australian. And also, worth pointing out, Sindaku, he's sort of pulled it back now, but I think he had some sort of issue as Remco wobbles through turns 4 and 5. But Remco and Neon really caught Sindaku in the last couple of laps. He's pulling away again now, but I don't know if he had some sort of slip slide somewhere along this circuit. But no damage on any of the front runners, just aging tires on that Red Bull. So things up at the front still very, very interesting. But as it stands, no movement in terms of positions.
Remco, a driver who's always had very good tire management. Neon now coming down the long straight, of course, with a supercharged run and DRS in the equation. The rear wing wide open. Remco there with a bit of a move to try and give him a very narrow corridor to move through. But of course, Neon with that pace, there's not much that the Dutchman can do with the Dutchman. Neon into second position.
Rutanius now going up the inside of Dark through turn 10. And I think Fraser might follow him through. Fancy his chances around the outside as they come down towards the hairpin. The move is well and truly done for the Ferrari way before the corner. And I think Dark, Fraser, they just need to hang on to the back of this Racing Point because his soft tires, I don't think they've got much left in them. We've got Maxime B there, who started this race in last position, so in 5th right now, on 14 lap old soft. So Rutanius, he could take them a bit further. But in the first stint, he got off them really early. So whether Rutanius' tyre management isn't good, his setup isn't tuned for it. Whatever it is, we know Ruta might not like that soft compound tyre too much in terms of longevity. And 9 laps in, there will be 10 when he crosses the line in just a second here. We'll see what happens.
Things starting to spread themselves out, all the differences in tire strategy. Of course, we have so much more racing to go here on lap 18 out of 55. And thank you to everybody tuning into this 100% Vietnam campaign. Of course, this weekend, a big weekend with Portugal. Ace and Dark, they're in a bit of a duel here. Dark trying to hold back the AlphaTauri, but the soft compound tires right now and the pace in that car for Dayson just a bit too much for the Haas to handle. Dayson, of course, we've said it time and time again and will continue to do so. He loves it here.
Yeah, and I think if you're Dayson, that's the perfect tire to be on right now. Really unlock the pace in that car at this middle stage of the race. Just really not only to bring yourself up the grid because it's a long race, there's going to be plenty more pit stops here, but just to give himself that little bit of confidence boosting. He knows he's good at this track. He likes this track a lot. On the soft compound tire, he's going to be making those overtakes. He's going to have his maximum pace just to bring his mindset back into things when he's had that unfortunate issue with a disconnected car. Now on the rear of Fraser and Rutanius, he's got much fresher tires, he's got much faster tires. I think we're going to see him fly by in a minute here, but Fraser is all over the rear of Rutanius, so this just needs to be patient. Make sure he executes the move at the right time. Doesn't go for anything greedy.
Well, Rutanius right now, he's definitely going to be struggling on the 10-lap-old softs versus Fraser. Fraser, 11-lap-old, 12-lap-old now as we cross the line. Mediums. Now Dayson, he's got the freshest tires out of the pair. Here goes Dayson with a lunge up on the inside of the Ferrari into turn 1, and what a move coming from Dayson. Of course, that really good traction really paying off for him right now, and Rutanius is just next up on his list.
Super clean, and turn 1, it is a potential overtaking spot, not one that you see too many drivers favor. You're always talking about turn 11, turn 13, turn 6 a little bit as they come through here depending on the situation. Sindaco Neon, they exchange for leader things. That one came out of just about nowhere. Yeah, Dayson, go back to him. That move through turn 1, for someone who loves the track, you could see it there when you take an overtaking spot, which isn't too common, and just make it work and make it look as good as he just did there. And now 7th place, Ruta on the chopping block for him. Dayson up the inside of the Racing Point, and Rutanius on the outside, braking late to try and defend the move. A little bit of a squeeze coming out of Dayson, but it's not going to work for Rutanius, and he drops down into 8th place.
Well, Rutanius right now, in my opinion, he needs to be careful how hard he fights those battles. The more he fights those battles, the closer that Fraser is going to be able to bring himself back into range of Rutanius here. And that really didn't do him any favors. Rutanius now staying out. Look at the speed that Fraser is just carrying on the rear of this Racing Point through Sector 3. There really isn't a lot left on these softs in comparison to the mediums, especially not when Rutanius is fighting, because he's just putting added wear and higher temps to those tires.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there is going to be a switchover very soon between these two, and the mediums on Fraser's car are just going to have a little bit more pace than Fraser's, and they're getting very, very close through this opening section. Ruthenius getting a bit of a better exit out of turn 5 as a result of Fraser being too close to the rear of him and just not being able to put his foot down as early as he would potentially like Sindaka right now. He wants that lead back. Here goes the Italian around the outside of Neon. And the McLaren drops down to P2. Scotty with a 137.9 setting fastest up of the race. Neon, you might have a switchback here on the Italian. What can he do? He's found it. He's up into P1 once more. He's got a lot less ERS in the tank, but right now he won't be worrying about that because he is still in lead of things. Dason, Mick out, the teammates of the evening exchange. Dason, he found that move pretty quickly after the last one. Nico, his teammate, with a little bit of damage on that front wing, still soldiering on with an end plate missing. He's positioning very well considering.
Fraser right now just sitting on Ruthenius still. He hasn't been able to overtake that racing point, and that gap has started to form to Dason ahead. Dason on those pressure soft compound tires just charging through this field right now. It would seem he's got 2.3 to make up to Maxim B, who has been on those softs for 18 laps. And you can see now as we come through, we're watching Neon lead this race. Things are starting to get a little bit darker lap by lap here, and we do have rain on the horizon. Fraser, Ruthenius in turn 1. This is where we saw Dason do some work, and Fraser looking to, well, do the same thing Dason did to him, to Ruthenius. It might not have been the cleanest as we saw Dason, but it was still clean nonetheless, and he got it done. Ruthenius, potential look back now. Thinks better of it.
Well, Neon, Sindako, they're exchanging again through the hairpin. I think Sindako this time might be the guy with the switchback on Neon, and he's using that extra battery to his advantage. The Dutchman has got nothing. And Striff, I think we're finally starting to see a little bit of cloud forming here in Vietnam. Ruthenius retakes Fraser. Coffee Sipper picks up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. But I think that cloud coverage is starting to form. A few people have been wondering where it is, me included. But now, as we approach the halfway point of this race, Dason Maxine be there side by side through sector 3. And it's just about worked out for Dason. Very, very touch and go there for the two of these guys. But the darkness is starting to come, Striv. I don't think the rain is going to be too long.
Wonder what Jeff is saying right now to these drivers. Ruthenius, Fraser still in lockstep here. Battle for 8th position wages on.
Well, now the problem is, Striff, if you're, Maxime B, for example, 19 lap old softs, you want to come in for a new set of tires, I imagine, with that tire compound that's so old now. But at the same time, you see these clouds start to form.
From Dark.
You'll be talking to death.
Sorry to interrupt you there. Dark with a nice move into 11th position on 4-door.
But yeah, going back to the tire thing, I think that just, it's going to start playing mind games. This is the difficult point, and Ruthenius on this grid, perfect example in Hungary a couple of weeks ago. That rain came in and no one was really sure, hit a bit too early, and that can ruin a race. But here in a little bit of a longer race, especially when we're going to have immediate conditions and then the full wets as Fraser now hunts him down through turn 10, down into turn 11. Ruthenius really squeezing him to the inside. Fraser, a little bit of a lock-up, forcing both of them wide. Ruthenius off of the track. And Fraser takes the position. I don't think Ruthenius will be too happy about it, but it's a fairly fair move. I think the lock-up there, one of the key factors in why he ran wide.
Definitely some tight racing on their way in to the hairpin there as well. Ruthenius trying to give him a little bit of that squeeze so that he holds him to that inside. He wants to have that optimal run on that outside line. Not the first time we saw it in this race either. Corridor, Scott now. Scott, 12th position for him. And we're just looking to see when these first raindrops fall. And then it won't be long before we see a potential tire switch, as a lot of these tires now on the grid. Well, getting quite old. A good chunk of the drivers staying out on their tires. Remco, Azir, they are on the tires they started this race on still, despite the safety car.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's going to be a little while until we see that rain. And I think obviously we don't have access to, the same weather information that the drivers have. But I think it might be a little while. I think these clouds, they're darkening, but I think they're going to get a lot darker before we see them burst and start making this track wet. And there's been an issue. J.A. Games is out. He's crashed through sector 3. Neon, he should have a good view of this one. There is the Ferrari front white suspension completely annihilated on the wall coming out of turn 18. No VSC, no safety car as a result yet. And that car has been cleared off the track, so I don't think we're going to see one. Rutenius Fraser, side by side through turn 13. Fraser on the outside. Can he find the traction? He doesn't. He backs out. Sensible from Fraser there. He's got the pace. Compared to Rutenius as he gives him a little bit of a love tap from behind. Oh. And again, you can see he's just got pace locked behind the Dutchman here. He's going to have a look now up the inside of turn 22. But again, not finding it. Rutenius putting on a stellar defensive drive, wasting Fraser's time, holding back the Ferrari.
Doing a heck of a good job in that racing point on these worn softs to keep a medium runner at bay right now. Because I am almost positive we're at that crossover, but I'm looking with Rutenius, and just as you brought it up, I was going to say we have rain here in Hanoi.
Well, there we go. Rain is falling. Now, how long until tires start getting switched out? Pit stops coming in. This is what this race is going to be, where it's going to be won or lost on these tire, choices. You pick a wrong move. As Dayson, now look at the pace he's got. DRS just flying down into the hairpin. The AlphaTauri on the Alfa Romeo picking him off cleanly and effectively. Azir slowing down on these 23 lap old hards, but they're still going to have plenty of laps in them, so they'll make it to the switch over. Fraser, Rutenius.
Ooh, Rutenius really deep there. I think Fraser was just going to let him do his thing, and I don't think he saw Fraser drop off the brakes. I think he thought Fraser might have still been there, and Fraser now, with a little bit of neat driving, has now played up on the racing point near a second the separation already, and as this rain starts to fall, Rutenius is going to struggle even more so on these softs.
Well, someone who's struggling on soft strip is Maxime B. 6th place right now. Mikkel right behind him. 21 laps on that compound, and I cannot imagine that far. It's fun to drive as he's moving to defend into turn 1. He's keeping the Australian behind him. I don't know if it's worth it though, because Fraser, Rutenius, they're not too far behind. As Fraser, very wide through out of turn 2 and into turn 3. That long sweeping right-hander, and tires are starting to become a problem for a few of these drivers on this grid. But I think now, like I said, the mind gears are going to come in. You don't want to waste a pit stop now before you get onto those intermediates.
That's right, and I always talk about when rain sets in and you have these worn tires, that tire degradation can really play with you in making the wrong decision. Fraser a little bit far behind, but Maxim and Mikkel now finally exchanging here. Mikkel, 17 lap old mediums, getting through on Maxim, who's on his 22 lap old set of softs. Fraser now is within DRS range, but you won't see DRS until the start of the 26th lap. Sindako has come in, yeah, and Neon has decided to stay out. He thinks it's too early. Sindako now, well, what a call from the racing point, and he's going to jump onto intermediates.
That's way too early, surely.
That is quite the early call. We'll see. It's a long lap around here, Unicorn. Might be wise. We'll see. We'll see.
It's a gamble, but there's no way I think this is paying off.
Well, he has a bit of a safety in the fact that Mikkel's quite far behind. Azir right on the rear of him with the 25 lap old hards, and the hard compound tires have played out well for him thus far. As Fraser and Maxim exchange, it looks like Maxim really feeling the softs right now. Fraser just flying away from him. You can see Rutanius on the 5 lap younger tires, even him catching up Maxim quite easily here.
Sindaki doesn't seem to have bad traction right now on those inters. I wouldn't say it's brilliant. He's not exactly running away from Azir. And now Azir's got DRS, so that's going to assist in pulling him in.
I think it'll really matter, I think, in Sector 3 here. But with Azir, he's got such old tires as well.
Oh, Azir sliding there. Intermediate signs pop up. Siffy, four-door sedan. They're exchanging. Maxime B drops down a place as Rutanius takes him into the hairpin. Neon now into the pit lane. He's going to respond to Sindako's pit lane. I think now people are starting to slide around.
He just took 5 seconds on the way, and that's going to hurt him. Considering if it was time for Sindako, I mean, he's going to get an undercut potentially here. In any case, because of that 5 seconds.
There we go. Sindako now.
Oh, that's the biggest undercut.
What a call from him.
What a call from the Italian. Big circuit here in Hanoi, and he's decided it was time, and he has really made a serious strategy call here. Look at the difference in the gap here to Neon. Near 3 seconds plus the 5 that Neon took. I mean, Remco, he'll be happy.
And this rain's only going to get worse. This rain is only going to get worse. We're about halfway through this race. In fact, we're pretty much at the halfway point. 27 out of 55 laps. Will take us to 54 if you doubled it. So as Sindako now approaches the halfway point in the lap, we are pretty much slap bang in the middle of the race, Jeff. And it's been an interesting campaign so far.
Jason,
with the rain only about to get worse.
Jason, favorite for Hanoi as always. Looking at Remco, and well, Remco knows the history with Jason in this circuit just as well as anybody here, with a bit of a squeeze coming down into the hairpin. Remco giving it everything he's got in that Red Bull. A little bit of a slide for both drivers. I don't believe any contact was made. And look at the spray coming off of that Red Bull.
This rain is getting worse by the minute. I don't know how long it is until we see the heavy rain. It's forecast, but it just seems to be getting worse lap after lap, corner after corner. And well, the visibility, Jeff, is awful. I know a lot of these drivers, they try and reduce that in gameplay settings as much as possible. For me right now, riding on board with Dyson, Remco Van Puten's car is becoming less and less visible as we go through the track.
Question I still have is how all of these cars were set up.
Well, Remco's having a big slide coming out of turn 2. He's caught it, but setup's critical, Striff. You know, we've seen soft running for half of this race. Pretty much slap bang half of this race. That's what the forecast said. That's what the forecast gave us. So I won it because we had that wet qualifying. We had the wet race here. I think we're going to see who set their car up for the wet. You know, a lot of times the wet setup can be driven in the dry with a little bit of a loss to, you know, tire wear maybe, that kind of thing. Not be optimal in those dry environments, but a dry setup in the rain, that's going to hurt you big time. So we'll see who's nailed the setup choices here. There's Dayson, what a run he's got on Remco. Let's see, can he do it this time? Again, Remco Van Puten, what a defensive driver he is, covers that inside line. His teammate obviously but they're ahead in the distance, and Remco defends the position again. But Dayson, he might have the switchback here. He does. He's ahead right now by the front half of his car. He's ahead going into turn 13, but Remco's not having anything of it. He's going up the inside. He's going to try and get back past the AlphaTauri. These guys have been battling all race long. They're still just side by side, but Dason inches ahead. And Remco realizes that he needs to back out before he sends it into a wall. Mikau, he's going to take Rutenius in a similar fashion. And he takes 8th place. And, well, he's not going to give Rutenius any room to come back at him. What a move from Mikau. Pretty much perfect.
Dason knew, just to get back to the 3-4 drivers here, Dason knew that he needed to do something heroic there. He needed to put the car just in the right place to get by Remco. Remco's such a defensive driver. We've seen it time and time again. And Dason got through, and he's going to try and punch a way through this grid. Coffee Sipper, he's being waved the blue flag as he gets out of the pit lane here. And, well, the blue flag, not something you want to see in any capacity, but especially not through the halfway point of a race. It's something, you know, if you're going to get it, maybe get it later on. But you look at how things are going on in this grid right now, and I think it's still anyone's race. We've still got a lot of racing to go. Drivers might run into issues on these wet compound tires. Mikau still with Rutenius on the rear of him. Of course, he's not too far off of Maxim. We don't have any DRS at the moment, which can be so crucial here around Hanoi as well.
Yeah, and to be honest, Coffee Sipper, he may not be having the best race here, but it's pretty impressive that he's still going. He's just been in 2 25% races in the Misfits Academy series that we got running in the Discord. So the endurance race alone, around the second longest endurance race you can have in this game, plus the 2 races beforehand, he has been driving for a long time in this game right now. So the fact that he's still going, very, very impressive. So, it may not be the best race, but in terms of just continuing to perform, as Mikau, there's not a lot of room here between him and the wall, or Maxime and the wall, I should say. But he finds the
no!
Come together into the wall.
What on earth? What on earth did we just see? And that has most definitely, ladies and gentlemen, deployed the safety car here in this race. My, oh my.
I'm amazed Maxime isn't out. I'm absolutely in shock. That Alfa Romeo is just taking a huge beating. Remco Van Putten picks up a drive-through penalty for speeding under the safety car. This is big news for this. Apparently, some sort of lag happened there, but Maxime beat Mikau. There was enough space on the right-hand side. It would appear the left-hand side sort of jolted them into that wall. Let's see. Everyone's just come into the pit lane. 1, 2, 3 laps to go. Mikau's coming back. Of course, Maxime B will be flooding in as well, just getting it slowed down enough. It's a very slow pit lane here in terms of what speed you can do on entrance. I think that's what's caused a lot of people out, as well as the fast entrance into it. It's just a straight line to that point. But yeah, amazed that both drivers are still in this race. We've already had 6 retirements so far, but right now it's Sindarko leading this race. He's been pretty dominant so far. Great qualifying, great race for him so far. Neon in second place. He's got a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. We'll see if he gets that sorted under the safety car potentially. Then we have Dason, Remco Van Putten, Azir in P5, Fraser in 6th, Rutenius in 7th. Scotty, well, let's see where he comes out in relation to Mikau. I think Mikau's back out on track. He is. So Mikau in 8th, Scotty 9th. Maxime B, he's just coming out ahead of Dark, I think. Yeah, he is. So 10th to Maxime E. Dark in 11th. Siffy is in the pit lane. So we'll see whether 4-door sedan could get past him. And Coffee Sipper, he's a lap down. I wonder if he's going to be able to overtake the safety car here. That would be brilliant news for the Dutchman in that Red Bull. But we'll see what happens. We've had 6 retirements. J.A. Gaines, Yasko, B-Man, Akrane, Dimitri, and Driver. All for a variety of reasons. Both the Renaults having what we think are mechanical issues. At least Akrane, he did have problems. He came across in the chat. So very unfortunate to see him have physical, wheel control. I don't know what platform he's using. Physical issues impeding his race there. But what a race it's been so far. Lap 30 and a lap 55. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We're just over halfway through. We've got plenty of driving. Plenty of racing yet to come. The rain is only going to get worse. And a big shout out, of course, to our partners, Next Level Racing. If you're looking for a sim rig, a wheel stand, a motion platform, that kind of thing, be sure to check them out in the link in the chat or the panel down below just to help them out. They're doing great things for the sim racing community, and we'd be really appreciative if you did. But Striff, what a start to this race. We've seen as Fraser now comes into the pit lane.
Oh, man. Wow. That's quite the call. That's quite the call. Maybe the right call. We'll
Depends
have
how
to
long the safety
see.
car stays out.
Yeah.
The rain's getting worse, we know it, but how much worse?
Well, this is starting to really take shape into being a very interesting race as he's jumped onto these tires. Everyone ahead of him on worn tires as well. Mikau, fresh inters at the rear of him.
I just don't see it being wet enough. I really don't for these
Dark's
intermediates.
gone for them too. Interesting call. What do we think in the chat, ladies and gentlemen? Of course, thank you so much to everybody who's been tuning in. Greatly appreciate that. Of course, tomorrow we have a ton more racing to come around a very iconic circuit, Spa, for the APAC division, as well as Formula 2, and you can find all the Formula 2 action as well as highlights, replays, guides, anything related to the Misfits Racing League. You can find it on our YouTube channel, !YouTube, and you can head on over there. Tons of guides, tons of highlights, just a lot of fun stuff. We've even got some meme videos over there. It's just all about racing. So welcome in, everyone, and we appreciate you spending some time with us.
According to Neon, obviously we don't have that weather information, but Neon is P2 in this race right now. He's saying the light rain is going to persist for about 15 more minutes, which at the current rate is only going to be, just under 10 laps, I would imagine. So the wets right now, as Rutanius has a big slide through the penultimate corner. But yeah, that's not the wets are going to be the choice right now. Safety car still going around for another lap. And also worth pointing out, Coffee Sipper has not been released. He is still in that train, just sort of in the middle. So this is really bad news for him, he hasn't been able to overtake that safety car. They're just going to have to let everyone get lapped by the entire field, and just hope that he could do something from that position. Maybe a few more retirements in this race, get him a position.
I know a professional safety car overtaker. The drifting isn't a good sign, but what he needs to do here is he needs to try and get in front of that safety car and overtake it before the timing, and get to the timing line before the timer runs out. And if it doesn't let him pass automatically, I guess we'll say.
It's just a tough place to be for him. I mean, props to him for still being in this, but he is sliding all over the place right now. I'm wondering whether he's got some sort of dry setup loaded that's not working out for him right now. Neon's having a big wobble as well coming out of turn 9. A lot of potential in this race to still be flipped on its head. Sindaku's been dominant so far, but
it's been flipped on its head a couple times. It's been shuffled up and down, and here we are on lap 32 following the safety car, and I have there it is. So it is going to be coming in here on lap 32. So we will be green flag racing for lap 33 out of 55, and that will be, of course, well, 66% pretty well through, almost.
Oh, here we go. Safety car restarts. Sindaku. Arch. And the safety car restarts around here. So very interesting with this sort of very complicated, twisty last few corners. They can really space out the grid, especially in the wet. I think he's gone, but given the wets, no one's full throttling, and that's why Sindaku, a big slide to the inside, manages to save it. But it's Remco Van Putten and Dayson side by side. Up the inside goes Remco Van Putten, the Dutchman, on Dayson, who drops down to 4th place.
A lot of work Dayson put in to get Remco as well. When you think about it, he's not going to be thrilled about that at all. Neon right now in trouble with the Dutchman. Well, we have a lot of Dutch drivers on this grid. Neon and Dutchman as well. Remco hunting him down. Look at the speed coming out of this Red Bull. The McLaren now looking to hold that line. He is really positioning that car, not giving Remco any opportunity to make a way through there at all. Doesn't matter. Ooh, Neon, a little bit of an issue. Did that open the door for Remco? Yes, it has. Second position now for him. Jason dropping off a little bit here. Neon, he's going to move back for a run. He's now on the right-hand side. He's on the inside, which will become the outside for the hairpin here. Remco trying to hold him as tight as he can. We've seen this so many times this race. A little bit of a lunge more coming out of Remco here. Neon with an unfortunate rev glitch giving us a bit of an issue getting a solid onboard with him. Third position still here for him, and not going to be thrilled about it given the penalty that he took on his way into the pit lane. But Remco, of course, drive-through penalty, and I have to say I missed that.
He picked it up right at the start of the safety car. Right, I'd completely forgotten about it, but yeah, he picked it up right at the start of the safety car. So very unfortunate for him. Fraser, meanwhile, a huge drift for the Ferrari. He is having a horrible time on these wets, but I think he has to just stick it out. They're not being too bad for him. Well, he's dropping him back a lot of time, actually. I think with the length of the lap, it's probably best to just cut your losses, get onto some intermediates, and hope for another safety car. Dark, he's been having a lot more trouble. He had a big issue through the final sector. You can see he's dropped right back to where Siffy was, who wasn't able to catch the safety car queue. And that's why they're so far back. One having an issue, one not catching the queue. But up at the front, it's still very, very tight between the battle for second place, all the way down from second to fifth.
Fraser, we saw him on the way into turn one trying to find as much of the wet line as he could. He didn't want to be on the dry line. We've had an issue now in sector. Yeah, he's really struggling through sector 3, and Azir on the rear of Dason on Neon. It's a shame Remco has that drive through. I'd say he's heavily involved in this fight, but Sindako, what a gap he has been able to pull off here to Neon. And you know, he had that safety car come out after a beautiful undercut, and it was a really good undercut from him. Here goes Scott now on the inside of Fraser, and this should be an easy done move for him. Fraser's sliding. He really can't find a lot of grip on those wet compound tires right now. Here goes Scott on the exit up the inside, and there's just not enough in it for Fraser right now. Maxim, he's looking at Fraser as well. Fraser just using this third.
In this wet weather.
The setup could have been a bit better for dry running, and the penalty that he's got could cost him long term here. Maxim now on the outside of Fraser. This is tight, and we have Fraser on these wets. Maxim. Well, we've seen some issues already this race between him and Mikau. Fraser and him having a little bit of contact here. Not sure what's caused it. Fraser losing out. Now Coffee Sipper unlapping himself from the Ferrari. And what a mountain it is going to be for Coffee Sipper to make his way up to get himself unlapped in this campaign.
Yeah, and for Fraser as well now on those wet tires. He's sort of in a bad situation. Routanius, he's had a problem. He's got a little bit wider now. He's got Mikau all over the rear of him. A fresh front wing for the Australian. He has been fighting back against all odds. He came back. He lost an end plate with a little tussle between Yasko and Fraser. And now, here he goes around Routanius to put himself up into the top 5. Last time he came down here, him and Maxime B had a little bit of a problem. But again, a little touch of the rear from Routanius. And he's still side by side, but he's not going to make the move. Whether just because he couldn't or whether he just didn't want to after that little bump. Either way, it's worked out for Mikau, but neither driver will be happy with that little bit of contact there into the hairpin.
And it costs them time overall in this fight, and Mikau, as you said, not going to be happy about it. Remco 10.7 seconds the gap right now after having served that drive-through penalty. Maxim within proximity, as well as Scott. Fraser 3.6 off of them with the wet compound tires, and we saw Dark get off the wets onto the fresh inters because it was just too much. And I think we're seeing this rain start to heavy up, like it's starting to really, you know, come down more. And you see Fraser's biting the bullet.
Well, bold calls can work, Striff. We saw, you know, Sindaco just 9 laps ago.
Yeah.
That huge undercut to the intermediates. And oh, who is that around? It's Coffee Sipper. As if there was any hope left for him. It's just dwindled out now. He's spun. He's got an end plate missing in the Red Bull. That is so unfortunate. Dark having another sort of problem here in terms of connection. He's struggling a little bit, but he did get himself onto some intermediates. So unlike Fraser, he's actually switched back to the green walled compound tire.
Dark now back into the session.
Gaps just falling everywhere now. Everything's calming down a little bit. Also, it's worth noting, if Remco with that drive through, he dropped to 7th. So that's still a position where he might be able to fight back. There's a big gap between 6th and 7th, don't get me wrong, but with a safety car, he could still fight back from that. I don't, you know, doubt that we could see another safety car before the end of this race with, you know, 18 laps still to go.
This has been such a race. I have to say, Mikau right now at these fresher intermediate compound tires, if he makes that wet switch at the right time, he could be on for a win here, as long as he keeps his nose clean out of the penalties.
Mikau, he's to be closing a little. He's burning a lot of ERS to do so, but he is catching.
There's going to be a time where I think it's going to be easy to maintain ERS here, given these conditions, and so he knows that.
Still pushing. It's the closest gap on track right now. And if we had the DRS, he'd be able to use it, but obviously, given the conditions, we can't. And Azir, he's not too far behind Neon either, so a mistake from the Dutchman, as well as that penalty that he's got there, all are going to play into the fact how we see this race finalized, who we see in front of whom after that checkered flag.
Up 37 out of 55. Thank you so much to everyone tuning in for this third round of the MRL Endurance Series, where we do an endurance race or a 100% distance campaign around the circuit where Formula One is racing. Neon into the pit lane. He's going to serve a penalty in there, and that could be good for him if this undercut pays off, and that rev glitch just giving us a bit of a headache right now. It's fortunate when that happens.
Well, there's the way. It is wets, of course. And he was the one who said that Fraser was too early. With the light rain persisting for 15 more minutes. Now he's the one to make the call to start the trend onto the wets. Get an idea of what the tire difference is like in a moment. Scotty there as the timing tire just sort of works it out. 1.7 seconds ahead. Let's watch that gap.
Still might be too early for these wets.
Yeah, I think it's a little early. Plus, I don't think Neon's got the best setup here for these conditions. We've seen him be a little bit shaky. He's been overtaken a lot since the rain started to fall. So I think he's sort of just trying to gamble a little bit, hope for the best, and try and get a bit of extra grip as he taps the wall coming out of 9. He's not lost the end plate, but there might be some invisible damage there. Maybe 10% sort of downforce lost.
Gap
He's
with
dropping.
Fraser to Neon right now, 9.7. And it's closing right now as Fraser makes his way down the long straight. We'll see how that plays out here. Of course, Neon's much farther ahead. Oh, yeah, look at that out of the hairpin. The good news for him is that he shaved that 5 seconds. The bad news is that it might have been too early, but as he comes through Sector 3 and I continue to see the rain pour, it is such a big question mark. Oh! What have we just witnessed? Safety car is deployed.
Well, I think it's fair to say it's not time for the wets, but Rutanius has come in. Now, again, perfectly timing the safety car, but I don't think he's perfectly timing the tires. Assuming that he is going, it is wet compound, so the problem is here now, the difficulty shift for these drivers is how long is this safety car staying out? Because if the safety car stays out long enough, the rain's going to keep pouring and pouring, and when we come out of the safety car, maybe it will be time for the wets. Right now it's not, but they're not racing anymore. The race pace is shortened. We're on a full course yellow under the safety car. Neon just proved that it wasn't wets for the moment, but it's not far off.
I think everyone's going to these wets now. I think it's going to be at the end of the safety. I mean, I think it's time for wets now. I think that Neon, had he made it through Sector 3, would be in a very good position right now. And I think he could have won this race if he had stayed out and not done what had happened. Like, if what happened in Sector 3 didn't happen, I think he could have won this race. He shaved that 5 seconds. He had a solid undercut. The wet conditions, I mean, they're starting to really get heavy. But now this entire grid is going to tighten up.
Well, it's certainly an interesting, and this is exactly what I said about Remco Van Putten. It's exactly what he needed. Yep, Sindaku's coming in. Siffy picked up a drive through. For someone in P11, that is not what you need. That is not what you need at all. I don't know if he's a lap down. I don't think he is. He's not. But he might be after serving that. So very, very unfortunate for him. Yeah, everyone's coming in.
Well, Dayson's going to be thrilled that this is going to bring him right behind Sindako, and we've seen them do the dance. Mikau in 4th position behind Azir. See how much that stat costs Mick, and
well, Dayson won't be too thrilled. He just picked up a 5-second penalty for speeding.
Oh, well, there's that. Azir, I think, needed a wing change, so he came in, I think, ahead of Mick, or was Mick ahead? I can't recall now.
I think Azir was ahead. And Rutanius as well. That early pit stop. He pit right at the start of the safety car the lap before. Where's Azir? Where's Rutanius? Rutanius is behind the Spaniard by quite some margin, actually. There goes Maxime B into the pit lane. Or coming out of the pit lane. And I think, with the exception of Siffy, who's coming in now, that will be the last of it. Everyone's onto the wet compounds for the last 15 laps of this race. 40 laps down. It's been a long, hard-fought, drawn-out battle for these guys, and it's still got 15% to go, or 15 laps to go. That's more than 15%.
Yeah, it's really coming down now here. It is definitely wet conditions, and we have 13 drivers remaining after 20 began here around Vietnam. Of course, this is the 3rd round. Plenty more racing to come for the Endurance Series. These races, they happen 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 10 p.m. BST, or 11 p.m. for those of you in Central Europe. Every Saturday that there is a Formula One Grand Prix happening. So, as of course we are awaiting the Portuguese Grand Prix tomorrow, we're here in Vietnam. since we can't race in Portimao.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that it's not in this game. Maybe we'll see it next time. I don't think they've confirmed the track list yet for 2021. But fingers crossed, we got a few of these awesome tracks that we are seeing F1 in real life return to, that they haven't been for a number of years. Dayson, he's come into the pit lane to get rid of that 5-second time penalty, and I can't blame him for it. He doesn't want that to be added to his time at the end of this race. He's going to drop down to 8th place for his troubles, but I think that's a small price to pay to get rid of the 5 seconds at the end of things.
Well, he knows he's got the pace around Hanoi. He knows he has it, and the last thing he wants is to have a 5-second penalty hanging over him like an added pressure during a safety car restart going into torrential conditions around his favorite circuit. He just doesn't want it there. He's going to land where he lands, but he just doesn't want the penalty there.
Yeah, he just wants to be able to race and go for that track position. So I don't blame him. And racing in the chat, thank you for coming across. Portimao is confirmed for the next game apparently, so this time next year, Striff, maybe. Well, actually, it could even be later this year.
Well, depending on what happens. I mean, theoretically speaking, if they were... Well, we could very well see it in the Endurance Series. Maybe an extended season. Who knows? Because we are going to be getting some of those tracks in the next game. And this season is going to go from the 2020 release to the 2020 release, just as we somewhat did last season. We did 2 Austrian Grand Prix for the Endurance Series. That worked out quite well, didn't it, Unicorn? We had done 2019 for the first Austrian Grand Prix of the season, and then we had done the 2020 Austrian Grand Prix for the Styrian Grand Prix that was held in reality.
Yeah, it was a nice transition. Plus, we had other Austrian Grand Prix going on at the time, so you and I are something of an Austrian expert.
Yeah.
So I think we need to, christen the new game with Austria every time, because it's the track we know the most about in terms of commentating. But that new game, I'm very, very excited, very, very, hopeful. I was going to say optimistic, but that is not the right word to use. Hopeful is the word I will use, because it has the promise, or the potential. Remco van Putin and Maxime B are both pointing the wrong way. Oh, and Maxime B and Fraser have come together.
I don't know what is Maxime B doing there. What has he just done there? This is going to bring Matt Fraser into the pit lane. Most certainly. 4-door as well. Maxime B is still getting that car turned around. And he will certainly head his way into this pit lane. And they don't have a lot of time to catch up with this grid now. Well, we might. Depending on the weather, who knows? Maybe the safety car stays out an additional lap. There's a lot of drivers now that need to catch up with it. But it looks like Remco spun. Maxime might have got caught up. I think Maxime had the rough rejoin, though. Fraser, 4-door, seemingly getting collected in that. I think that Remco was the catalyst to this. And that might have just been a catalyst to a concertina. We'll have to see, of course. They'll surely throw some perspectives into the Discord. Post-race, of course, jump into the Discord if you're looking to ever participate in the MRL Endurance Series. This is a community-based race. It operates on a solid check-in system where if you've never raced one of these before, you could just as well be racing the next one. So jump on into the Discord. We're still under safety car conditions, so position losses for, of course, these drivers that had to pit for wing changes, but hopefully they'll be able to get back in. We're just about to cross into the 3rd sector, and we'll get an idea of whether or not we're coming in this lap or if we're going to be going around again.
And I think to anyone new in the MRL, this is a brilliant way to get in, because right now you can see there's a lot of people from a lot of different grids who are permanent across the MRL. There's a lot of people who I don't think we've seen here. We've got the safety car coming in this lap, but anything can happen in these long races. You've got, Mikau right there, APAC driver in P2, ahead of Azir, strong tier 2 driver. Then you've got Rutanius, tier 3 driver, ahead of Scotty, who doesn't have a seat, I don't think, across the permanent grids. And then Dayson, Remco van Putten, another Apex driver, Fraser, tier 1 driver in 9th. It's you know, it just proves anything is possible in these MRL grids. Sindarko, he will be restarting this race again. He has been at the front for a long time. Remco Van Putten.
What has happened with Dason?
Little light tap. I think nothing major.
Yeah, your typical 5-second penalty. Siffy really shaky out on exit. Fraser is back. Four-door, not so much. So Fraser, the only driver caught up with Maxim there, able to recover to get into this grid. He's already looking for a move on Siffy here on this restart. Around the outside is the Ferrari, holding it as best he can, having to go off track just a little bit. Everyone trying to leave space. What an overtake opportunity this has been for Fraser, and well, he's gotten himself back into 8th position. Scott just ahead of him.
I don't know what happened to Scott as they came down the start-finish line. Dason and Remco were battling, and they both just passed him up the inside. No problems. Into turn 1, so I don't know what's happening for the Haas, but he seems to have no straight line speed on the safety car restarter. I don't know if he didn't react fast enough or what, but a big problem nonetheless for him. As Zier's on the rear of Mikau. Botanius dropping off the rear of them a little bit with Remco on his gearbox.
Well, look at the rain here
in the late stages.
Look at the rain here on his ear. Is he going to look for a move? You can see that rain light of the AlphaTauri just barely. He's looking to that inside, and they get on the brakes. Remco Van Putten on the inside of Rutanius now in the hairpin. Dutch driver versus Dutch driver here, and we've seen it so many times this race. Rutanius just having to come off that wide hairpin there. Just roll over that curbing. Dason within a second, and we saw him come in to shave a 5-second penalty. He's in 6th position. He'll be thrilled about it.
Good things so far. Well, if you're a Dutch driver, it's 50-50 as to whether you've done well. You've got Rutanius and Remco right here fighting in the top 5, and then you've got Coffee Sipper, who's a lap down, and Neon, who's just retired from this race. So 50-50 for the Netherlands right now in terms of how the drivers are performing. Obviously, in real life, not too bad either. With Max Verstappen. Siffy into the pit lane. Rutanius, he's gone very deep. Turn 1, is this going to open the door for Dason around the outside of turn 2? Opening him up for turn 3. It's not really an overtaking spot, but if there's anyone who can find it, it's going to be Dason here. He loves this track. He started 8th on that safety car restart, and well, bit of a problem coming out of turn 5.
Look at the rain just pelting off of that halo right above where it says AlphaTauri F1 team. You can just see the rain pelting as they come down the straight within that slipstream. We're about to come down the longest straight on the calendar now.
Yeah, that turn 10, just allowing it to sort of exist. Per the sort of F1 track rules, you can't have a straight too long, so they like to add in these flat out corners to just accept Fraser on the inside. That's very late on the brakes of the Ferrari. He just about gets it turned in, but only just, and he gets the 3-second time penalty for going so deep. Rutanius Dason, it's been a bit of troublesome for the Racing Point on this restart. He hasn't had the pace, but he's just managed to soldier his way to keep P5 from Dason right now.
That battle with Rutanius there and Dason just this lap, starting into that hairpin. Rutanius and Dason, that drag race coming into turn 11, and Rutanius holding it with everything he has right now on just the older tires by 2 laps, and Dason really wanting to make his way up into 5th, maybe catch up with Remco, who now has that penalty. The gaps are forming. The weather is really torrential right now. Look at the rain coming down here around Hanoi.
Yeah, we knew it was going to get heavy. The race at the start, it was like, where is the rain? But now it is most certainly here, and it's here to stay. Only 10 laps left now. It's been a long time. The endurance race really earning its namesake here in the streets of Vietnam. And Rutanius now, this might be the final defense from the Dutchman, because Dason is coming up as inside, coming down into turn 6, and the AlphaTauri is past.
Wow.
But convincingly, they're still side by side as they come through this long left-hander through turn 7 into turn 8, and Dason, he loves this track, and that is why, because he has made a move around that just sort of a mushroom-shaped couple of corners at the top end of this long straight, and he is going to be very, very happy with that one. That's why he cleared that 5-second penalty, and now he can open himself up a little bit of clean air. Can Rutanius fight back into the hairpin? I think he's going to be too far back, and he is. So Dason up into P5. What a move from him.
Fraser just lingering, not too far behind them. He has the penalty, but he'll want to try and take some track position regardless. And he is 1.5 seconds away from Rutanius now, who has dropped to Dason into 6th. Dason, 3.9 seconds the gap to Remco Van Putten. See what he's able to do. Remco Van Putten, of course, 5 seconds on his time. At the end of the race, he's got that penalty. Fraser with 3, Dark with 3, Maxim with 5, and we have Coffee Sipper with 3. And Coffee Sipper will be catching the checkered flag early, as he has been lapped in this race.
Yeah, him being that sort of a problem in terms of just ever being able to get back into this race. As soon as you're lapped in a race like this, it's so hard to get back into it, because if you can't overtake that safety car, it's pretty much the final nail in the coffin. Janius is really struggling as well. I think he might have gone for a dry setup as well, and Fraser right now may be looking to take advantage of that.
Dark 4-door right now in a solid battle for 9th position on this grid as Fraser continues to hunt down Rutanius. Just looking on right now with 4-door and Dark, and nothing doing just yet. Fraser's going to have a potential opportunity at Rutanius now as we make our way to the hairpin. Does he have a look here? Rutanius holding as best he can. He just wants to get that inside. A big squeeze there from Rutanius on the Ferrari, just trying to hold that line, but Rutanius, well, that turn closes off a bit. Not too sure what to say about that, but Fraser will go through into 6th position regardless. I don't believe any debris came off either car.
I think they're both all right, but no, the end of the race. What's going on here? Is that Coffee Sipper? It is. Coffee Sipper's well off at the hairpin. He is well and truly, I think, in a car park, actually. He's not even on the streets anymore, but a bit of his front wing missing. Actually, quite a fair portion of it, actually. And I think that is, you know, really game over. I would like to see him come into the pits and just change that front wing just so he can say he finished this race, because he has been in it for so long. He has not given up hope at any point, and he deserves to have that, you know, P13 jotted down rather than a DNF next to his name. We'll see what he does here as he soldiers it back into the pit lane. Thanks for a 3-second time penalty somehow for cutting
he cut the line
into
there. There was a line of some kind that I think he just drove over, and the game said, yeah, here you go, have a 3-second as you're limping into the pit lane. Maxim hunting down 4-door for that final points position right now. 3/10 in it between the two.
Well, this race sort of quietening down in the final stages with the lap times that we're getting. Just over, you know, probably about 10-15 minutes for these drivers to get it to the end of this race. Plenty of time for anyone to make a mistake, allowing others to move up. So they still need to just hang on in there. And it's really, at this point, a mental battle. And in some cases, a physical struggle as well. If these guys are on wheel, it's going to be a lot more tiring than, you know, using a controller. But again, holding a controller for this amount of time, not particularly comfortable. Maxime B, he's very tight to the rear of 4-door Sedan. Through sector 3, you won't typically see moves through here. Ozzy looks to get a switchback maybe through the penultimate corner. Ford Sedan having a little bit of a traction issue coming out of turn 22. Through 23 onto the start finish straight to start lap 48 of 55. And Maxime B still in 11th place, just outside of the points, and he's got a penalty as well. But Ford very wide through turn 1. Maxime unable to capitalize, though. There is really no grip on this track, even on the wet compound tires.
Dason now hunting down Remco Van Putten. Dason, well, he has been waiting and waiting and charging for this moment. Here we go. Remco, he's done this all race long, holding that inside line. Dason, solid braking from him. A good squeeze coming out of Remco here. Their wheels lock, but there isn't enough here for Dason to get through on Remco just yet. But Remco Van Putten most definitely is on notice.
And for Remco there, that move was pretty much perfect. In my mind, that defense was, excellent. Maxime B, he's not going to have to run into Ford Sedan to get a move done through the hairpin. But Remco, considering Dason's prowess around this track, very, very impressive to make a move look that easy on your opponent.
Well, Remco, as we've always said, one of the hardest defenders in the game, especially within the MRL, and Dason knows it as well. He and Remco, they've raced plenty.
Yeah, I think that's, something we like to see when you've got a league and a community like this. People know each other's driving styles. They know what they've got to do. They know each other's strengths and weaknesses when they've been around for that long. Remco, Dason, both have been here for a fair amount of time now, and when you've got that information on someone, you can use it, but they're going to use it too, and you can be sure of that. And we've just seen Remco right there put all of his skills to the test, and he's come out on top for now. He's got a penalty though. Dason doesn't. He got his serves in the pit lane, and that is why it's so important, because now Remco has 5 seconds and in 6 laps. It doesn't seem he's ever going to be able to shift. Maxime B now, he's looking for a way fast Ford Sedan. It's going to be close. Who's going to overtake who first? I think Dason might just get it first. He does. Around the outside, a little bit of a lock up over the Avatari. Can he find the switchback on Remco Van Putten? There it is. What a drive out of the corner. A little bit of wheel touching between the two, but too early for Remco Van Putten. He clips the wall. He's lost an end plate for his struggles.
That is bad luck for Remco. He really did take that end plate there, and he's struggling. And I'm not sure what's happened now. He's got damage. He's letting Fraser through here. Britannius has just gone into the wall massively as well.
They're both missing huge portions of that front wing. It's starting to get to them, Striff. Britannius isn't coming in.
Remco on his way in. 5 seconds for speeding. Britannius with that damage staying out. I don't know what to say. That's a hard call. He has absolutely no downforce on that car.
He's going to struggle to make it to the end in one piece. He is going to really struggle. We've seen, the likes of Neon crash out with damage. Look how wide he's going into turn 3. You've got Scotty on the rear of him. They've lost about a second to Dark behind already. I honestly think the pit lane would have been the better place to go for Rusanius here.
Got now charging by, yeah. Dark. 12.8 seconds the gap to Rutanius now. We're on lap 50. And certainly not going to be easy for Rutanius to hold back Dark when he eventually gets there. I think that this is a gap that Dark can make up to the racing point.
Dark does have a penalty though. It's only 3 seconds, but basically makes it a 15-second gap. But he needs to, overtake by if you want. So he needs to get past, catch the 12 seconds, and then extend a 3-second gap. I think that's maybe what Rutanius is sort of hoping he can extend by. So only time will tell. 5 laps, about 10 minutes, and Rutanius is really struggling. He can barely turn that racing point right now with the wing damage, and this is the real section where it's going to be a problem for him. Into the wall he goes. He's still in this race, but it's only going to get worse.
You can just see the struggle coming out of the racing point, and he's continuing to soldier on here with the 7th position.
It's a tough call, but it's the one he's going for. So we'll see how he manages it to the end of this race. There is a bit of a battle behind Dark Ford. So Siffy, I don't think they would catch Rutanius if he'd gone into the pit lane, but he's staying out, and it's the gamble he's taking. It's the risk he's got. But Dark is a real threat. Look at the gap. He's closed that by about 4 seconds in 1 lap.
Yeah, it's a very, very serious level of performance that's being lost right now in that racing point. Siffy with a very, very large corner cut coming through turn 1. That's going to cost him a huge penalty here of 3 seconds, which is pretty big considering he's in 10th position with somewhat of a train behind him. But of course, Remco, Maxim also 5-second penalties for them. But it's not going to get him anywhere closer to 9th position on 4-door.
But
uh-oh. Looks like we've had an issue. Unicorn.
Everything's frozen. Game potentially crashing on my end.
Yeah, it says you've left the session and we've had a migration of hosts. Fortunately, everything okay right now. Remco into the wall on the rear of Siffy right now as we come down the long straight. A little bit of a bash of the wall there. Remco looking for a switch up the inside. What a lunge coming out of the Red Bull. Looks like he tried to fake out the Williams there. And look at this exchange coming through the hairpin now. Maxim B is going to take the Dutchman here. Or is he? Remco back on the inside here. Coming through into turn 11. Is going to hold on. Whoa. What a exchange of positions that was. Rutanius now. Dark. They have exchanged Dark. Finally catching up with the Dutchman here. Dark getting that move through into 7th. And who'd think otherwise? Rutanius with so much damage on the front end right now.
Yeah, pretty unorthodox place to get it done, but that's just, you know, a great display of how much damage he's got right there. And my, view of this race now a little bit delayed, watching via the stream, but I daren't close the game out of its frozen state in case of this lobby going corrupt, so I'll leave it as is.
Jason on the rear of his ear, less than 3/10, closing now down less than 2/10 here in Sector 3. There's a slight tap from Dason on the rear of the Spaniard. Coming through turn 11 now into Sector 3. Dason wants this podium. He shaved the 5-second time penalty under safety car conditions to guarantee the podium here.
It's incredible that we've still got these battles going on in this race after such a long period of time. And these drivers, they have been hammering out tooth and nail for the best part of 2 hours now, I think, Striff, and credit to them for still having the fortitude to keep going wheel to wheel, especially in these conditions around this track. It's so difficult in the dry. In 50% race, you make it wet and you make it a 100% race. That's the race to, really remember and really just sort of savor if you do well in it. But I'm sure a lot of these drivers, 8 to be precise, will be looking to forget this one.
Azir half a second that gap right now to Dason, and he could just be holding on the rear of the Spaniard to try and make a last minute move. We're on lap 53.
It's late, but if anyone can find a late move in a wet Vietnamese race, it's gonna be Dason.
It's all boiled down to this, really. I mean, he's always talked about how much he's enjoyed this circuit. He didn't have the best race in MRL this season, as he mentioned earlier on the broadcast, and if he gets a podium here today after what a dynamic race it's been, he'll be thrilled about it. Four-door Siffy exchanging now. A drag race coming down to the hairpin. Four-door on that inside. Well, it's going to switch to the inside for Siffy as we come into that hairpin here. Look at the run. Four-door. Wheel to wheel now, Siffy just a little bit later on the brakes as we come through now into the hairpin. Slight top from four-door there. Maxim B on the rear of this, looking to maybe inherit position on track, but of course he has the penalty, as does Siffy.
Penalties, they won't play a huge role, but they will play a role in the finishing result of this one. And given that, you know, most of these drivers will be scoring points, and Coffee Sipper, he's so far down, he won't be in that battle, but the rest of these guys, 11 drivers left who are available to score points. It's important for those last few guys to, you know, keep themselves mindful of the penalties, keep themselves clear of any extras that they could pick up in these last couple of laps.
And be dropping off of four-door just a bit as we come into turn one here, but four-door very deep in turn one. He's lost a massive amount of position to Siffy, as Siffy now, he's got Rutanius, and Rutanius has been driving with this damage for some time. Gonna look to try and run back at the Williams.
Rutanius has got no penalties. The key thing here.
So much earlier on the brakes though for Rutanius. You can see Siffy just shooting ahead. I mean, Rutanius has absolutely no braking power in that car in comparison.
Meanwhile, while these guys are battling out through sector 2, Narco, he started the last lap of this race, so we're finally on the final lap, at least for the leaders.
There's Maxim looking at four-door sedan. Slight tap of four-door into the hairpin. Not sure if that was the reason four-door went as deep as he did, but that is Maxim into 10th. And we're now, as you said, on the final lap of this race. Rutanius goes deep through turn 11. He comes back on track. Maxim has tapped him, and this is not going well for these two drivers. Rutanius so slow through sector 3 here. Four-door looking for a way past, and you can see that front end damage on the racing point. That front right is just so banged up right now. Sindako 4 seconds in lead of this race, and Mikau, after a drive-through penalty at one point in their very early stages, he made his way all the way back to second. Azir is in third right now, being hunted down once again by Dason. As we come into the hairpin, this could be the last opportunity. To the outside is Dason. As we come through, the Alfa Romeo defending with everything he's got. Azir on the inside. Dason without the move done. Let's see what happens through now. Sector 3 we go. Azir holding on to third position. Sindako just, well, 12 seconds or so ahead of them. We'll be looking to cross the line in just a few moments as he comes into the penultimate turn. What a race this has been. This could be do or die for Dason's podium opportunity here. Wow, what racing this has been between the front end of this grid, but it is going to be now Sindako taking the checkered flag here with Mikau. A potential, well, not a potential, it is a second place finish here. Azir, Dason now coming through into the final turn of this race. Here we have it. Azir to the line, Dason crosses fourth, and it's 3-4 for them. Fraser now will come through the final turn, and what a race we have seen here around Hanoi.
Yeah, brilliant stuff from a lot of these drivers. Sindako, he has controlled this race, come rain or shine, qualifying or race. He has been absolutely dominant. What a race from him. And Mikau, the recovery drive there he was knocked down. He was coming back. He got that issue with Maxime B coming down the straight, and he comes back again to hit for a P2. What a drive from the Australian. And Azir there up 6 places for the Spaniard as well. Scott as well up 11 places. Brilliant drive from him. So very, very impressive from him. But yeah, a lot of drivers can be very proud with that result. Fraser as well, given the mishap on the wet weather tyres, he came back for P5. So nice for him there. But my, oh my, what a race.
This has been a thrilling race. We're going to be doing some interviews in just a short moment with the top 3. We have Sindako, Mikau, and Azir, your top 3 racers here at the end of a 100% distance campaign. The last driver that will cross the line to finish here will be Rutanius, and he came in just at the end, I suppose, to get that fresh wing on, to have a little bit of a smoother sailing final lap. And what a dynamic race it's been for a good chunk of, well, it's been a dynamic race, period. No matter where you were on this grid. We started this race with 20 drivers. We finished with 12.
Well, there we are. What a race that was. It's a shame I didn't get to see it. Yeah, either way, a very, very strong race for a lot of these drivers. And considering the length of it, I think it's kept us all entertained for a very, very, exciting build-up for tomorrow's action, both here in MRL and real life F1 stuff. I think that was quite a good way to end out Saturday. A very, very dramatic, I think is the word I would use to describe that race.
I'd say you're bang on there. Sindako started this race in first. Well, he had a very commanding drive. He started it in first and he won the race. The Italian in the Racing Point stopped 3 times. It was a 39.206, the best time from him. Mikau, he started this race in 7th. What a dynamic drive. We'll hear from him in a second as well. Started this race in 7th. He had a drive-through. He finishes 2nd. Azir, he started this race in 9th. And he finishes 3rd for Alfa Romeo in Spain today. And what a great one from him as he defended off Dason, who started this race in 3rd but drops back 1 position. Fraser from 8th to 5th. Of course, we had Scott Barreras. He started this race in 17th and he finished it in 6th. Dark 13th to 7th. Biffy from 12th to 8th. We had 4-door sedan from 19th to 9th with Maxim B starting this race at the absolute rear of this grid, finishing 10th. Now Rutanius, he started in 10th. Fortunate drive for him near the end there, losing a very good portion of his wing. He finishes 11th. His good friend, coffee sipper and fellow countryman, well, in the Red Bull 12th position. Neon, another Dutch driver on this grid, 13th position in the McLaren. Gene Kelly, aka JA Games, finishing out behind them. And we also had a few other retirements on the grid. Remco Van Putten as well with the DSQ near the end. For a very, very dynamic and long race. Now, it will be time for some interviews, and I do believe we have the entirety of the podium finishers available. Starting with, of course, 3rd place finisher. It is none other than Mr. Azir, no stranger to joining Unicorn and I here in the commentary booth. How are you feeling after a very long race? You went from 9th to 3rd. Congratulations.
Thanks. That was incredible. My first race at Misfit Endurance race, and yeah, P3. I'm sweating right now, and a very hard race.
How was it working through all of the different weather dynamics? We had safety cars. I imagine there were a couple moments where you had to move through a couple incidents. Was this something that you would do again, or maybe not Vietnam?
Yeah, a lot of safety cars and a lot of pit stops, and I just tried to do the same that all, and then the only thing that was different, I start with hard and I just wait for the rain and then P3. So I think it was a good race for me.
Definitely a good race, starting in 9th, finishing in 3rd. Any pressure at the end with Dason charging on the rear of you in those conditions?
Yes, a little bit, but with these conditions, we know that is very hard and very difficult to overtake, and I was a little bit, a little bit pressured by Dasan, but anyways,
Well, congratulations, Azir, on a fantastic race, and we'll hope to see you in the next one. But of course, we'll see you later this week for more MRL racing for Italy.
thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Azir from Spain, finishing third in this race now, joining us for a interview, and no stranger to the interviews, or well, holding the interviews. G'day, mate. How was that?
I am very shocked to be here on the second step, on the runner-up position after what was a disastrous, absolutely disastrous opening third of the race. After jumping the start, after getting damage twice, 5 second stop go. I ended the race with 5 pit stops or something like that, I think. And to be second after all that is quite a miracle, in all honesty.
It most definitely was a dynamic race. We had such a difference in weather. It started dry. As you said, you had that jump start. What went through your mind the moment that happened?
It was just, trying to keep my nose clean and just, it's a long race, 55 laps. There's like guaranteed to be safety cars. The rain's gonna cause a lot of chaos, so just head down and just put in the laps. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to keep my nose clean after I think there was an incident with one of the Ferraris at turn 7, I think. But yeah, just a hard one after the jump start, but just head down. It was a long race. So,
How does this compare to previous endurance races that you've
certainly one of the more challenging ones. And definitely one where full focus was required, and it wasn't for the faint of heart. I do believe I've only really done a few others. I think I've done 2 Bahrain and 1 at Russia. So yeah, definitely the most challenging one thus far. But no, it was quite rewarding, and as one of the last times we'll probably ever see this track. Yeah, it was a great way to send it off.
Well, congratulations on an amazing race, a P2, all things said and considered. And of course, anyone in the stream looking to catch Mikau racing again, you can find him racing for the AlphaTauris tomorrow. And that will be over for the Asian Pacific stream, where they will take to Spa-Francorchamps for the Belgian Grand Prix. So good luck to you there, Mick. I hope you do well as you did today.
Thank you. Greatly appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Last but not least, of course, what a superlative drive, a very consistent drive overall. It is the Italian, and I'm going to hand it off to Unicorn as always for the race winner. But I just want to say from me to you, Sindako, what a race, a very dynamic campaign, but you started it in first position and you landed it with the win. So congratulations from me, and of course, Unicorn, feel free to take it away.
Well, Sindako, congratulations from first to first. A time of, I think it was just over an hour in the end, I think, total. It must have been longer than that. But how are you feeling after that one? Both, just in terms of how you feel coming P1, but also just in terms of finishing a race that's taken so long.
Yeah, it was a tough one. It was very stressful, especially the last sector. Having to do that 55 times, it's not easy. And just focused on keeping my nose clean, and had some good battles, some tough battles, but everything was fair, I think. And unfortunately, Neon, I don't know what happened to him. Probably he hit the wall. He hit the wall. I don't know. Before the inters, I have no idea, because I should have been behind him when he pitted for inters, but I got in front. I think he changed his wing or something like that. But yeah, it was very stressful.
Well, you said there, a very difficult race. Vietnam, notoriously a difficult track with the changing conditions. The setup problem seemed to arise for some people, but for you, you seem so composed throughout the entire race. Talk us through How was your setup? Also, your intermediate call was brilliant. You just seem to work in every single weather scenario that race threw at you. So how did that manage? How did you work that one out?
I mean, personally, I just like intermediates on this game. It just feels good to me. I can just drive good, I think, better than slicks and wets. And I just took my dry setup, increased my rear wing by 1, and that's it. That was my setup. So was like sweet spot. Well, it was very close to the sweet spot, I think. I was struggling a bit with the wets, but for the rest it was perfectly stable, reactive, and was just enjoying it.
Well, it certainly worked out for you, and I think you could fully deserve to enjoy that one. What a race, what a performance. Striff, any questions from you before we let Sindako go?
No, honestly, it was a great race, and I hope to see you again in another endurance series as we continue to do them for the F1 season.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they are tough, but I think they are pretty rewarding, and I'm quite consistent, and they are. I mean, I like it. That's it.
Well, thank you so much, Sindako, for taking the time to interview with us, and again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up interviews, of course, for this evening. And what a race that was around Hanoi, of course. That was the third round of the Endurance Series. Tomorrow, we still have some more racing to come on a Sunday. We have the APAC division for the Belgian Grand Prix for round 14 MRL racing. They'll round out the week. And then we'll be back at that on Tuesday with Tier 3, 8 p.m. British summertime, 9 p.m. Central Europe. And that's 3 p.m. for those of you in the eastern region of course, North America, like myself, the Eastern Daylight Time. Now, of course, with that being said, tomorrow we have that APAC and we have Formula 2 on the YouTube channel. We also have a little thing called Portuguese Grand Prix and Formula 1. But it's going to be an awesome day of Formula 1 action tomorrow, of course. Unicorn, that's it for me. Do you have any messages before we head out with the outro and raid a member of the F1 stream community?
Well, I said at the start, I think that race was going to go in a way no one could expect it. And I think that is what we got. We got a very exciting, dramatic race around Hanoi. And I think tomorrow, Spa in early afternoon before that Portuguese Grand Prix is going to feel very, very short. And considering that track is as long as it is, that's going to be very surprising. But, it's thoroughly deserving. I think Sidaku there saying, very rewarding, perfectly sums that race up. But a brilliant race. Thank you all so much for watching it, for sticking around throughout that entire campaign. We saw so many safety cars, VSCs extend it, but the rain kept it all enjoyable. The constant battling throughout. The drivers, huge pat on the back for them, because a lot of them stuck this one out for a long time, and it's very difficult. So a big shout out to the drivers, big shout out to everyone watching at home. If you want to join them, the Discord, get yourself in there. It's a community race. It's open for everyone. But until tomorrow for APAC, before the Formula 1 Grand Prix, I hope to see you there. But thank you all very much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.